scummy. Why are you an asshole? I think I might have said this like once or twice before, I don't know. Oh, scummy. Why are you wasted every day? Every single moment, every hour that you're away. I only wish that I had the chance to get it on with Pam Anderson before she lived like my spirit and Danny DeVito, he is my hero. And I'm sorry that I got distracted from what the song's about. Oh, scummy. Why are you such a piece of shit? Okay, maybe you're not a piece of shit, and I'm just jealous. I only wish that I had the chance to get it on with Pam Anderson before she lived like my spirit and Danny DeVito. I don't know who needs to hear this, but know that someday it will get better. I know life sucks sometimes, I don't always like mine, but I know that someday it will get better. I will not forget that night at Subterranean. It was summertime and it was raining. I was headed down the block to pay the meter for my car. That's when I saw the sad girl in the rain. I don't know who needs to hear this, but know that someday it will get better. I know life sucks sometimes, I don't always like mine, but I know that someday it will get better. She was crying, real tears were streaming down her face. I could tell that she was in so much pain. So I reached out for a hug and she came in and snuggled up. I told her everything will be better someday. I don't know who needs to hear this, but know that someday it will get better. I know life sucks sometimes, I don't always like mine, but I know that someday it will get better.
dancing and prancing in Jingle Bell Square in the frosty air. What a right time, it's the right time to rock the night away. Jingle bell time, it's a swell time to go riding in a one-horse sleigh. Giddy up, jingle horse, pick up your feet, jingle around the clock. Mix and a mingle in the jingling beat. That's the jingle bell, that's the jingle bell, that's the jingle bell rock.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest episode of I'm No Joe, your home for all things combat sports, and the place where every armchair quarterback can feel like Eddie Bravo. The views and opinions presented on the I'm No Joe channel belong solely to the person expressing them, no one else. If we say it, that means we meant it. That being said, this show does contain adult themes, adult content, and general shit that you shouldn't be letting your kids intake. Be advised, viewer discretion is recommended. Proceed at your own risk. You've been warned. If it's Thursday, it's I'm No Joe. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of appropriate ages, to the final episode of the year of the I'm No Joe podcast, the show where every Santa-loving fella can be an Eddie Bravo. Today, as like most days, my bearded brethren, Golf T, is here with me. The kid is MIA. We're hoping he shows up, but we don't know. Such is the way sometimes, but we have still got one more UFC card left of the year and a little bit of interesting news that has fallen out since we saw you folks last. But before we get into all the craziness, Golf T, how the fuck you doing this evening, brother?
Living my best life. At least that's what I want to keep telling myself.
There you go. Whatever gets it through it, right?
Exactly. I'm going to just try to look pretty in the process.
Hey, there you go. You know, some of us have to work harder at that than others, but you know,
yeah,
we'll get through
this
it.
Guy. That's the facial follicles. Gotta hide it as best as I can.
The show is also broadcast in all audio format, folks, because we get it. Oh, but before we get too deep into all of the craziness and shenanigans that we have for you fine folks to talk about this week, as we like to do around here, we like to start off with a little bit of a recap from the fun that happened over the weekend before we get into this weekend's upcoming shenanigans. And I gotta say, honestly, I went into UFC 269 with fairly low expectations because of all the fuckery and all the shit that had been moved around. I kind of anticipated something big falling out right before everything went live, and ironically, we didn't really get that. The closest thing we got to something falling out from UFC 269 was actually during the weigh-ins on Friday. Alex Perez missed weight by 4 pounds, but before he went to go back and take his second attempt at the scale, Matt Schnell, his opponent, was actually declared medically unfit by the backstage doctor, and the whole fight was scrapped, so he didn't have to go re-weigh. So he essentially got a free weight miss out of the whole ordeal. But that was the closest that we came to anything really big getting shifted around last minute for 269. I gotta say, starting right off the fucking bat, two things stand out to me about that opening matchup: Jillian Robertson versus Priscilla Cachoeira. One, throat cuddles for everybody. Jillian seemed like she was a little gun shy when she first got out there, but it's also been a minute since she was in the octagon again. So I get it. She had to get her feet back underneath her, but you could very clearly see the moment she got her feet back underneath her, it was a problem. And she knew exactly what she was doing. The second she shot in and got that down, it was all fucking over. But the second thing that stands out about that is Priscilla Cachoeira, as Jillian Robertson was delivering said previously mentioned throat cuddles, Priscilla Cachoeira very clearly reached behind her and tried to jam Jillian Robertson in the eye, to the extent that the first time it happened, the referee just slapped her hand away because there was like 8 seconds left in the fight. The second time, the referee went to reach for her hand but missed, and she not only almost jabbed it once, but then went back for a second helping of the free-range eye gouging, to such an extent Rogan even mentioned it in the Octagon interview, and they showed a clip of it. It was very clearly intentionally thumbs going for fucking eyeballs multiple times. She, to her credit, Priscilla apparently apologized to Jillian after the match. She made a public apology on Instagram, and then she did an interview in Portuguese with a Brazilian sports outlet that was there covering, and said that it wasn't anything that she did on purpose, but she was fighting for her life and she had to survive. So what do you expect? So you deny it, but then you acknowledge it and you say, well, if you were fighting for your life, wouldn't you stab somebody in the fucking eye with your thumb? Well, yeah, I would, but I'm not the one who just got caught on camera doing it and said that I didn't.
And also, I'm in a setting where a ref will stop it before I die.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to worry about actual death with a referee on a fucking pay-per-view.
Don't get me wrong. Strange shit happens, so it's a possibility, but not from a rear naked choke. That ref's going to see you go unconscious, and
yeah,
that's
the second you go limp.
It's not like you're catching a knee to the forehead and crushing your forehead in. I'm just saying there's other people out there that have happened to and they didn't fucking die. So, you know. Yeah. You're in a sanctioned fucking fight. You should know better. That's all I'm saying.
I agree. You should be more of a professional than that, I think is a good way to put it.
Yeah. At a bare minimum, more of a professional.
Right. From there, though, excuse me, we will roll on to the next very interesting match. Tony Kelly is an anti-vax, white trash, fucking Muay Thai monster, plain and simple. The knees from the clinch that he was able to fucking deliver just melted Randy Costa like an ice cube on a summer sidewalk. It was absolutely brutal. His fucking comments afterwards are a little questionable. Some of his comments leading into the fight are a little fucking questionable. The reason he drove to the event instead of letting the UFC fly him there were a little questionable, but you know, what you do in your personal life is on you. What you do in the cage was fucking work, and that I can appreciate. That was a beautiful example of reading everything that Costa was throwing at him and then negating it all with a beautiful plum and then knees until it just was nothing left to be fucking said.
Yeah. Poor Costa had to just have the worst fucking stomach ache for like fucking 5-6 days afterwards.
Yeah, I think Costa's going to be pissing blood for a couple of days.
Oh, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. Those are some gnarly motherfuckers, that's for sure.
Yeah, he was laying it in. Oh, but from there, I will say, Ryan Hall versus Derrick Minner was a lot more exciting than I thought it was going to be. And apparently more exciting than my dog thought it was going to be as well. I will say, Ryan Hall did slightly more than I anticipated he was going to do. The disappointing part about that match for me was that Derrick Minner almost gave poor James Krause a fucking hoarse voice. The entire time, he was literally giving himself right to Ryan Hall in the position he wanted him to be. Poor James Krause was literally screaming from the sidelines so loudly that even the commentary crew made a point to mention it a couple different times. At one point, Derrick Minner literally went right to the ground with Ryan Hall, and you heard James Krause from the side yell clear as day, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like, I like Derrick Minner, but Ray Charles knew coming into this fight, Ryan Hall wants your leg, your ankle, your knee. He'll take your back if he can get it. He'll take an arm if you give it to him, but he wants your leg. He wants that Imanari roll right into that fucking knee bar. So he wants to replicate the thing that got him famous doing it on BJ Penn to everybody, because that's his fucking move. And I get it. If it's hit right, it's, as Miyagi would say, no can defend. But the problem is Ryan Hall rarely hits it right. That moment that he hit it on BJ has basically been the one time that he has landed it the way you're supposed to land it, because ever since then, everyone that he has been matched up with went, oh, he's going to try an Imanari roll. Fuck that. And then they spend the week before the fight practicing Imanari roll and knee bar defenses, and they come in, and guess what? It doesn't hardly ever fucking work anymore. Guess what he spent the vast majority of Saturday night trying to fucking do? Knee bar Derrick fucking Minner. And what did Derrick Minner keep fucking doing? Going right back to the ground, where he clearly was just getting fed to fucking Ryan over and over and over, much to the dismay of poor James Krause. Aggravating. Moving on from there, though, I've got to say, Erin Blanchfield versus Miranda Maverick did not go at all like I thought it was going to. I knew it was going to be close. I did not think it was going to be as much of a blowout as it was. Oh, Jesus Christ. I think they're going to call that a touchdown. If not, that was a 96-yard run by a big man that shouldn't have been able to do that. Sorry. Chiefs game's also on.
Hey, I get it. I'm watching it too.
that was a ridiculous run. But Erin Blanchfield basically shut Miranda Maverick down. Like, she literally made Miranda look gun shy to even exchange. And when she did, Blanchfield was getting the better of basically every fucking situation she was put in, and came out looking pretty fucking good. The real surprising thing was the domination on the fucking ground. Her striking was good, and she was absolutely outstriking Miranda, but when it came to the ground, she was having her fucking way with her. Like, there was no stopping it almost. I think, as weird as it is to actually say it, had this been a 5-round main event instead of a 3-round prelim fight, I think Blanchfield might have been able to actually finish it. I think with a little bit more training, a little bit more grind, polishing off a couple of those rough edges, Blanchfield has got a lot of potential, man. This is showing, if nothing else, taking that debut on a week's notice was not a fluke. What we saw, as good as she looked in that short notice fight, she looked even better last weekend rather. So it could get real interesting real quick, because Miranda Maverick was on the short list essentially not long ago to get thrown right into the fucking wood chipper shredder.
Oh yeah.
Blanchfield just kind of made that look silly, and at the same time went, hi, have you seen me yet? Because if not, you should pay the fuck attention.
She's trouble for that division. Look, I'll say it. Even last week, I did not give her the credit that she deserved. Just like, you know what? Yeah, the first fight she came in short notice, won. Call it a fluke. No, it's not a fucking fluke anymore. She's taking fights on short notice with fighters that are allegedly more seasoned and better than she is. Look,
right.
That young girl has got some fucking potential, because the way she handled Maverick was fucking beautiful, especially for somebody so young into their career. Because what, she's 20, 21, something.
She's 22, getting ready to be 23. They said.
Yeah, she's fucking young, and she got a lot of road ahead of her. And with the way that base looks,
fucking career,
she's got the sky's the fucking limit.
No, I was very, very surprised. I had it being a close match. I didn't think it was going to be as lopsided as it was. I think Blanchfield is going to be a big problem for a lot of those ladies down there. I'm very curious to see once they start stacking her against some legitimate ranked competition, because I think that's coming real fucking quick. How she shakes out against some ladies with some numbers.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's nice to see some new blood getting pumped into that division, and not just a lady from another division, or excuse me, a lady from another organization getting brought in who's already spent half her fucking career and is just trying to make that final run at UFC Gold, which we've seen a lot of. So it's going to be interesting to see where she goes from there. But moving on from there, the premier early prelim, they were calling it the early or the featured premier prelim, I think, during the event. It's too many fucking names for an early fight. Long story short, Andre Muniz gave your boy Eric Anders the business. He essentially caught Eric Anders in the exact same position that he had Jacare in before he broke Jacare's arm, but Anders managed to pull far enough away to where it was just the armbar and not that kapop situation that we saw with Jacare. But either way, pretty nicely done. Not that Anders was really the best wrestler in the world to begin with, or the most, acute Brazilian jiu-jitsu tactician to speak of, but he's not your run-of-the-mill soup can either. So the way that he was able to fairly easily dispatch Anders in the first fucking round via the same submission he just got Jacare with the last time we saw him, there is something to be said about that. On the other hand, though, the fact that he went to his post-fight press conference and sat down at that little table with the microphone and said that he's going to keep breaking arms until they give him that skinny guy Israel Adesanya to choke out, I think that might be a size or two big in the britches department at this point in the game. Not saying he can't get there, but I'm saying you caught Jacare on literally the tail end of his career. Literally, you caught Eric Anders, who doesn't do much jiu-jitsu to speak of, isn't the greatest wrestler, and you wrestled him into a jiu-jitsu hi-ya that you get everyone with. You armbarring Ryan Hall-esque using that. So I don't know if calling Izzy is really the move, but I get it. Trying to make your name known, trying to get that conversation started, get your name floated out there. I get it, but
I'm not even mad at him, to be quite honest. It was absolutely, get your name out there, fucking throw people under the bus, do what you got to do. Because, man, that's the stuff that's going to, for lack of better terms, give you that legend status, especially if it keeps tipping the right way, Right. So it's not mad about what he's doing. It's a weird thing to see a guy pretty young into their career doing that shit. But then again, right, at the same spot on that, I go, well, what the fuck was Connor doing? Exactly the same shit. That's how it got.
Talking to everybody and anybody on his way up. Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, can't be mad at that at all.
No, dude. As I said, on one hand, let's take a deep breath and let's make sure that this is just floating the words out there and not actually like that next Diego Sanchez run, if you know what I mean. But otherwise, the performance spoke fucking volumes. So there is that. Moving into the actual prelim card, though, a minute 28 is all Bruno Silva officially needed to get his work done. Just swinging fucking hammers on Jordan Wright and caught that one clean one that turns the fucking switch off. Wow, just wow, I don't know how far that style is going to carry him. I don't know if that's all he's capable of, because we haven't really seen a whole lot from him outside of that. But that will absolutely carry him for a little bit, because holy shit, did he send Jordan right into next fucking Tuesday. But again, you can't just be a dude who goes in there and windmill swings for 3 minutes and hope you get the results that you're looking for, because that formula won't work every time. But Jordan Wright wasn't necessarily the world's biggest threat that he really had to worry about either. So I'm wondering if that might have been the game plan, just because he's seen, or his coaches maybe had seen, that Jordan Wright's chin's a little suspect and has been for a minute now. So if he could connect properly, it could have done exactly what he did. So props. He absolutely fucking wrecked Jordan, but I hope to see him get back in the gym and at least tighten that striking up a little bit, get a little cleaner on his work, because as he starts to move up, there's no more Jordan Wrights, as they would say.
Exactly.
Props for doing the damn thing, but let's make sure we tighten up a little bit. That being said, one of the few things that Golf T asked for his birthday, just the little things in life, really, the things that give you those memories. He wanted his birthday shoey, and god damn it if Santa Ty didn't fucking deliver. Tai Tuivasa went in, maybe not the prettiest round one, definitely in there giving it an A for effort, still a little sloppy, having a little fun getting dialed in, not much of reading out, but round 2 came out and was like, you know what, I'm done fucking around now, let's just do this, and just absolutely blasted Sakai and did the damn thing, folded him like a fucking lawn chair. Big hands mean big connections, and big connections on your head like that. I will say it was nice to see that not only did he get to do his on the cage shoey that he is essentially known for, as he was walking down the way, he grabbed one, did a shoey right off the stage, did another one on the way through, and then actually got into a fight with an event staff security guard trying to do another one on his way through the tunnel. So Tai Tuivasa is definitely making up for lost time and taking advantage of the opportunity that he had Saturday night, for sure.
It was absolutely gorgeous. I loved every stinking minute of that. Not gonna lie, that made me way happier than it should have to watch somebody fucking drink a beer out of a shoe. Although that possibly could have been because there was whiskey on board, but I'm gonna go with the latter half of just saying it was that fucking good.
I agree. I absolutely agree. It was fucking spectacular. And you know, I will say, I have to agree with DC, and that rarely happens. But this time, it's undeniable. If Ty is gonna be doing shoeys every time he wins like that, I'm much happier to see him doing the quote unquote Americanized shoey, minus the Haktua. Just pour the beer, slam it, pour most of it down you, and not actually drink fucking foot foam and then celebrate. I get it. It's quote unquote tradition, but the less funky you can make that quote unquote tradition, the more socially acceptable it could possibly be. The hardcores love it regardless, but we got to get him back on like ESPN and shit so we can get his name climbing again. And they're not going to want to show him doing shoeys until he's getting big time highlights. So Americanize that shit. Keep it beer shoe solution.
I'll say it. I think you did perfectly acceptable work there. There was nothing wrong with what he did. You do it however the fuck you want. It's your show. You win. You do what you want. Guess I'm just of that odd variety, though, when it comes to that, because, you know, there's a special place in my heart for the shoey. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Oh, no, but from there, though, man, Dominic Cruz versus Pedro Munoz. I think everyone that saw that fight was a little surprised at how it turned out. That fucking fight was just nuts from the start to the finish. Dom got dropped twice in the first minute and a half of the fight. I've heard Dominic joke about it, so I think that means it's safe for us to joke about it. He got his universal karma back for the Keith Peterson situation, where he possibly could have come back and wasn't given the chance, because this time, I think pretty much everyone watching was wondering how long this was going to go on before the fight got stopped, as he was getting hammered by Pedro in the first and managed to survive every fucking bit of it and turn around and then get the decision by outworking Pedro in the second and third rounds.
He outworked the piss out of him in the second and third round.
Like
it was,
yeah.
it was, for lack of a better term, beautifully ugly.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, like it, I will say his movement though, the dude doesn't seem like he's lost a step, and like the way that he still moves on his feet, he's still got quick fucking feet. His turnoffs looked pretty good. Like I was fairly impressed. I won't say I was overly impressed, but I was fairly impressed.
I think that he kind of acknowledged that as well in the post fight, which he stood all the way through for, because he's a badass like that. He said himself that might not have been the best performance he's ever put on, but at the same time, he doesn't feel that that performance really impacted his career negatively. It just might not have propelled him as much as he was hoping the opportunity would have. And in having a less than stellar performance like that, he agrees that he shouldn't be getting thrown right up to the top. But at the same time, that leaves him wide open for fights like Jose Aldo, who would be right in that same range and would make a legend versus legend fight that I think everyone would like to see.
You know, I'm done with that fight to a point. And I say to a point for this reason. I don't think anything ill of him, but right now I think Jose is obviously on a different level right now than fucking Dominic Cruz by a long fucking shot. So I just don't see that one being a worthwhile endeavor for those of us that are fans.
I have a feeling that, well, let me put it this way. Depending on how the first quarter of 2022 shakes out for the UFC and their pay-per-view events, there may be an opening later on in the year for perhaps a fight night that could use a main event, that they would most definitely consider sliding in Jose Aldo versus Dominic Cruz to get people to pay attention to like a fight night before a pay-per-view. Maybe
I could get down with that.
Maybe the week before Jan versus Sterling gets rematched, maybe.
That wouldn't be a bad one. However, I would kind of like to see one of those two as a backup to that fight, though.
I would agree with that as well. The problem with that is that technically TJ is the number one contender, but still injured. And then you also have Sandhagen still in the mix as well, who's still above both of these guys.
Yeah. Although
that's why I said if you do it as like an appetizer, a main event of a fight night the weekend before Jan versus Sterling unify the interim and the actual quote unquote champions belt that Sterling's still holding on to for some fucking reason. Like the weekend before that, make that, or even if they co-main event, like the fight night the week before that pay-per-view. Keeps 135 relevant once that title picture is straightened back out the way that we all pretty much assume it's going to be.
Allegedly.
Right. Yeah. If we get there. Yeah, I agree. But moving on to our actual premier prelim for last weekend. Josh Emmett versus Dan 50K Ige. Holy shit, was that a back and forth fucking war. I gotta say, as great as Dan Ige has looked recently, Josh Emmett made him look pretty fucking rusty. Granted, Ige still landed a couple of good shots, but for the most part, Josh Emmett controlled that fucking show start to finish. Ige definitely landed some good shots, but I don't think there was ever really a point where it looked like Ige had quote unquote taken control of the fight and was running the show. It was more like Emmett had him on the back foot for the most part of 15 minutes.
You know, I don't know if it's just me, but I think fucking Emmett has been one of the most underrated fighters in that division, period. Like, the dude is seriously way better than everybody thinks he is.
I think I know what it is too. When he got flatlined, and he got absolutely flatlined. For some reason that I don't understand, a lot of fighters, because I've heard him say this in interviews, since he got knocked out, really started to doubt the legitimacy of any of his wins, both before and since that knockout. Like, that one knockout somehow defined his career that he's just starting. Like, he's still fairly young in his MMA career, or in his UFC career, not in his MMA career. He's got some rounds, but everybody does in the UFC top level. But he has actually progressed basically every time we've seen him since that knockout, but still is getting overlooked because for whatever reason, that moment is stuck in people's head as like the Josh Emmett signature moment.
Yep, it's that one time fluke fucking thing that happens to a fighter, and it puts just a bad taste in everybody's mouth for him, which, to be honest, I feel bad for the guy because he's a lot better. I think that getting flatlined, that made him a lot better. It made him focus, go back, watch that tape, figure out where his holes were, and he seems to have patched a lot of those holes. That's all I'm saying.
I completely agree with you, man. I completely agree with you. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with Emmett going forward, because realistically, he is one of the baddest 45ers the UFC has to offer. And I think with a couple more outings to prove it, he's going to be a serious problem for the top guys.
Oh, yeah.
That being said, though, that'll roll us into the main card, the pay-per-view section of last Saturday's UFC 269 card. O'Malley got him. Paiva came out giving it hell. O'Malley hit the button. I gotta say, I don't hate the kid for wanting to fight Cans until they give him a better contract. But if that's the case, and you're really trying to sell that the sugar show, I say with air quotes, is as good as advertised, despite Cheeto handing you your fucking ass, renegotiate your fucking contract. It's not like we haven't seen a dozen different, even mediocre tier UFC fighters in the middle of a goddamn contract have that moment of realization where they decide their value is more than what the contract that they've already signed is written down as, and that in order to go forward from here, they need more money and a new contract that says as much, and have negotiated just like that. Nate Diaz did it right before a fucking fight. If the Sugar Show really is as good as he's trying to pretend that he is, renegotiate the contract. Don't keep fighting Cans and bitching about the money that you're making for fighting Cans. Renegotiate your fucking contract, put your balls on the table, and fight someone with a name that you keep calling out from the fucking nosebleed section.
Not a bad deal. Not a bad idea.
Like, I get it if you're going to take that boxing route and you're going to fucking work your way up just crushing cans so you've got a nice fucking record, that's cool. Do that. But if that's what you're going to do, shut the fuck up about the Cody Garbrandts and about the Dominic Cruzes and the Piotr Jans. Those are guys who have their balls on the table. They're willing to fight people with a number beside their name, regardless of how many zeros are on the paycheck. And if you're not willing to do that, you don't get to talk like that and have it mean anything. You can still yap because he's gonna, regardless, but it doesn't mean shit until you're willing to actually walk the walk. All that yapping is just that. So basically, O'Malley did exactly what O'Malley continues to do: fights talent below his level and then talks shit to people way above his level. We'll see where they put him going forward. But I think for the most part, the vast majority of the world, or at least the moderately hardcore fan base in MMA, kind of thought Cody versus Kaya was going to go basically just how Cody versus Kaya played out. I did not think it was going to be a first round finish. I thought they would really feel each other out a little bit more in the first round, and it would really get gritty in round 2, where Kaya would still take over and clip that fucking chin and shut him down. But no. Kaya did not want to wait. 3 minutes, 21 seconds, 3, 2, 1, knockout. Round 1, Kaya Kara France just laid Cody Garbrandt the fuck out like a filleted fish. And I gotta say, not to be malicious to Cody at all, I'm not a big fan of kicking a man when he's down like that. But realistically speaking, after all the shit that Cody had talked, much like his predecessor, prior to going down to 25, about how easy it would be to get down there and how easy it would be to fight down there, and how this first fight at that weight class was going to be the beginning of a takeover. And then that first fight happens and his ass just got completely handed to him in a little over half of the first round, easily. There's not clearly a place for Cody Garbrandt at the top of 125. There's clearly not a place for Cody Garbrandt at the top of 135. And I think the stats that they showed was out of his last 7 fights, 6 of them, Cody has been knocked out in brutal knockout, or he's lost by knockout and brutal knockout at that. Regardless of how hard you can hit, there's a certain point in your fighting career where the amount of damage you take to get knocked out and the amount of damage you can dish starts to turn the opposite direction. I like to refer to it as the Chuck Liddell effect. The point where, yeah, you used to be able to hit real hard, and you can still probably hit fairly hard, but how hard you need to be hit in response to that to shut your lights out in the process is a ever decreasing volume. And Cody Garbrandt is quite clearly on that path where every fight we see him get knocked out, and every fight it takes less and less and less. And that's not to say anything bad about Kaya Kara France. Like they said, it's been said several times before. Kaya Kara France is still world-class fucking professional prize fighter, and anybody in the world who can take one of those overhand fucking right hooks from him and walk away has something that they've got something to brag about. But in this situation, it means a little bit more because we've seen that same impact from other people in the same situation with Cody. So we know what that impact really literally needed to be to shut the lights off, and it did. So we're at a point now where we're realistically, not just the UFC, but the entirety of MMA organizations as a whole have to seriously start looking at, what do you do with Cody Garbrandt? Because it's one thing to say, oh yeah, well, the UFC should just cut him. But at the same time, even if the UFC just cuts him, there's always a Bellator, there's always an Eagle FC, there's always a PFL, there's always a CFFC, there's always a Cowboy Fight League, there's always an LFA. You know, Bahama fights, there's UAE fights, there's literally dozens of other organizations who can and will pick up someone with a name value like a Cody Garbrandt and then throw him right back in the ring because they can still make money off of that name value. But it's clear as day now that that chin is compromised regardless of what organization he's fighting for. It's a weird point, man. It's a weird point.
Yeah, I don't think we see him too much longer, to be quite honest. And to be honest, I'm not mad about that at all. I don't think it's really a bad thing to say goodbye to Cody.
I don't either. And the thing is, Cody still has a lot of opportunity and a lot of value to add as a coach, like a lot of professional fighters who just get to the point where they can't keep getting hit in the face anymore. And that's essentially the point where we're at with Cody. Cody still has vast amounts of fight knowledge, but he's at the point where because of the damage that he has taken in gaining that knowledge, he is physically not much longer for the participating side of the fight game.
Yeah, I don't think we see much of him anymore at all, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I was going to say, that being said, though, Cody has an ego the size of North Dakota, and I don't know if that would let him step away from the fight game and step into the cornering aspect of it and not being the actual fighter, the center of the attention, as it were. We'll see, though. That being said, Jeff Neal versus Santiago Ponzinio. Honestly, both of them look like shit, in my opinion. To be fair, Jeff Neal has had a little bit of a distraction as of lately that would not justify, but at least explain part of why he was a little less than as focused as he probably should have been. Ponzinio, on the other hand, has no reason to have looked as fucking horrible as he did. For a guy who has talked as much shit about everyone in the welterweight division as Santiago has over the last couple months, much like a fucking Sean O'Malley, you better be able to back it the fuck up, because otherwise you're just going to look like a clown. So for Santiago to have talked as much shit as he did and then came out and looked just deflated, just defeated from the get-go, split decision win goes to Jeff Neal. But again, even then, that's nothing to brag about for Jeff Neal either. His performance was less than fucking stellar to be good about it.
Yeah.
I still don't know why this was on the main card, let alone kept on the pay-per-view after Jeff's little run-in with the law. I get keeping it on the card because the fight's already booked, tickets are sold for it, blah, 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 but why it needed to be on the main card and the People's Co-Main Event spot didn't make any sense. And especially while it was going on, it was like, this is how you sell your fucking dual title fight final pay-per-view of the year with this? Disappointing is the way that I'll say it.
Fucking terrible. They both look like absolute dog shit, to be quite honest. But the thing, I still say that fight was in the wrong fucking spot. It really was. Shit. I would have been happy with having fucking the goddamn Bruno Silva and Jordan Wright fight in that fucking spot versus that fucking nonsense. Yeah. Look, when you get fucking arrested just before your fucking fight on a main card of pay-per-view, if they keep you on, you automatically go to the early prelims. That shit.
Or the prelims in general. Off the pay-per-view portion.
Yeah. Like, to be quite honest, that's one of the biggest problems with MMA. We continue as a community, as promoters, as fucking fans, to watch shit like that slide and just let it slide. Just let it go. No, knock that shit off. Send those motherfuckers packing. We don't need that shit in this sport. You don't see that shit in football. That shit happens in football. Guess what? You're fucking sidelined. You ain't playing. You don't see that shit in baseball. That happens. you're not in the dugout. Same fucking concept for any other sport except for MMA. MMA is the one where, oh, you got in trouble over the weekend? Whatever, go fight. No, fuck that. Take away your right to earn fucking money. And I say right loosely. Because look, this is a job, yes, but it's not one that you have to do. You can go get a different fucking job to pay your bills. If you can't keep your shit together long enough so you can do it this route versus being a 9-to-5er like myself, they need to fucking cut that shit. Like, the promoters need to become quite a bit more harsh on that stuff, because it's not acceptable.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a hard time concentrating going into overtime there.
I know that's I'm fucking.
I saw the coin flip was happening while I was talking, and I didn't even look down to see who won the flip. So I don't know.
Pretty sure we're receiving first, and they chose to defend the opposite end. But speaking of in the feelings, that brings us to the co-main event of UFC 269. Contrary to what Daniel Cormier said, I am more in the Michael Bisping camp in acknowledging the fact that Juliana Pena beat Amanda Nunes. It was an absolute upset. She wore Amanda out quickly and then took her back without sinking the hooks in, had the rear naked locked in, and Amanda tapped. I do agree with Bisping more than DC in the fact that, yes, this was an upset, but this was far from the greatest upset in MMA history. I think that still firmly, for my money, resides on Matt Serra versus GSP, considering that Matt Serra didn't fight for the UFC when they signed him to the contract to fight GSP, and was supposed to be the soup can that GSP crushed to get back into the limelight when he literally flipped the world and beat the fuck out of George St. Pierre in his prime as a nobody unheard of. This is someone where we've seen Juliana Pena take on other people of notable recognition on her way up to talking shit to Amanda Nunes the entire fucking time. And then Amanda Nunes coming out and getting herself Ronda Rousey'd in that she didn't do what she does in a fight. She let herself get lured, let herself get worn out, and then gas in round 2 of a title fight and got taken advantage of in that situation by a better grappler. Would that happen 10 out of 10 times? No fucking way. But did it happen this time? Sure the fuck did. I'm not a Pena fan, but hey, I say it all the fucking time. Credit where credit is due. She beat the shit out of Amanda Nunes, took her back, and took her fucking belt.
You know what I'll say, good on Pena for winning this. Greatest thing that did happen, that could have happened, did happen as far as the women's rankings are concerned. The true pound for pound women's champ is now at the top of the pound for pound list for the women, Valentina Shevchenko. Look, for a long time, we've all known Amanda Nunes is great. Yes, definitely in the talks for GOAT status as far as fighters are concerned, period. Because look, you've earned that fucking right. I mean, you clean the clock of fucking Cyborg, for Christ's sakes. You've earned that right. But Nunes fell into the I will say for this one, she fell into the Connor camp. Hard to get out of bed when you're sleeping in silk sheets. Hard to get up and train. And good on Pena too for this one. You talked shit the entire time, and you backed every bit of it up. Look,
yeah, she said she was gonna wear Amanda out, and that's exactly what she did.
She made Amanda eat more leather than she's eaten in her past like 3 or 4 fucking fights. Absolutely. And then had one of the, I will say, one of the most gorgeous takedowns against the cage that I've seen in a long time, because it is a simple takedown. That takedown that she uses, they teach on like day 2 of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes. It's
Yeah, it was
fucking
not fancy.
beautiful. It's stuff that fucking like 6-year-olds do, 5-year-olds, and made it work on a high level fucking fighter and get a rear naked on her. Look, I don't think Amanda is done by any means.
No.
But on the other side of that, the problem here is that puts that sliver of doubt in her mind now. Because guess what? You got fucking worked. You got choked out. You tapped. Like, I'm to be quite honest, I was a little disappointed in the tap.
Yeah, likewise.
Because my thought is, if you're going to be the champ, go out like a champ. Don't fucking tap. A la Holly Holm. I give Holly Holm credit for that. When she lost the cupcake, she did not tap. She just went to fucking sleep. And
I don't even think of it that far. I look at it as it wasn't even really a full choke. Like, she was literally, Juliana was laying on Amanda's back with her legs straight. There were no hooks, no seatbelt, no nothing. She was literally planking on Amanda with the neck wrap.
It was basically a modified bulldog choke.
Yes.
Is where she was at. And guess what? A modified bulldog will still put you out. But
it will. But only if you're gassed. If you're gassed so bad that you can't defend it.
Yeah. And to be quite honest, Juliana didn't do anything overly special. She just outworked the piss out of Amanda. Yeah, which is weird to fucking say, because Amanda generally outworks everyone else. But she got absolutely fucking outworked. And to be quite honest, I'll say it. On that night, she was outclassed.
Yes.
It's another
like San Diego just got by Kansas City.
Should I just miss it?
Travis Kelce just ran it in for like 46 yards.
Oh, there it is. Oh, Jesus Christ. He was playing fucking keep away there. Okay, the whole game of no, this is not offensive to anybody, but what we called it back in the day, a little game of Schmear the Queer on there. He was running around trying not to get tackled and still made it all in.
Yeah, no, there's a reason Travis Kelce's one of the best tight ends in the fucking NFL right now. You just put that on display. But that's a different show.
Yeah. No, and good on Juliana. And congratulations, champ. Because look, if you beat the champ, that makes you the champ. Now, Can she defend it? We'll see. I don't know if Amanda is going to take time off to where Juliana's going to get a different fight before then, or if Dana's going to go, no, we're just going to shelve you for a while and wait for Amanda to be ready. I have a feeling it's going to be the latter of those two, but to be quite honest, I would like to see her fight somebody else to defend the title, to see how she does in a title defense situation, not a rematch situation.
I agree. I would like to see, and this is no slight to Amanda by any stretch of the imagination, but I would rather see Juliana against anyone else, literally anyone else in that 135-pound division. And then if she survives that, let her get that rematch with Amanda. Because honestly, I don't think Juliana is top of the division. I think she's had a very favorable matchup leading up to the position that she got herself into to get that belt. Not that she didn't earn it, but I think the matchups have been very favorable for her. And I think at this point where that division stands, I don't know that she can really hold her own against the top 5 in that division, let alone against the rematch against a now angry Amanda who wants her fucking belt back. Because Juliana, for those of you who didn't hear, didn't waste a fucking second of time saying that either Amanda can run it back at 35 or we can go ahead and turn around and do this for her 45 belt. I can take everything that she owns. Careful what you wish for, sweetheart. Because like I said, yes, she absolutely got that win against Amanda. That was undeniable. She did exactly what she said she was going to do. She wore Amanda out. She took her down. She choked her the fuck out. And she took her belt. But like I said, the odds of that happening 10 out of 10 times are virtually zero. The odds of that happening 9 out of 10 times, honestly, I think are probably virtually zero. I think this was quite literally Juliana's I have to do this or else moment. And the cards fell exactly the way that she needed them to, for it to play out exactly the way that she wanted it to. And again, props. But I don't know that those results are duplicatable. I think it's the best way to put it.
Well, only one way to find out if they're duplicatable, and that's to see it happen. And to be quite honest, I like the idea of her saying, yeah, let me go after a 145 pound. I'll add 10 pounds on. Fuck it. I like where her head's at. You know what? Swing for the fucking fences. You've already done so. You've already hit the home run. Why not go for the grand slam? Fuck it. That's, to be honest, that's the best thing she could have said, in my own opinion. And that's no slight at Amanda at all. But
Right.
As far as she's concerned, she fucking knocked that son of a bitch clean out of the park.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only tricky part about talking that mess, as the kids say, is now there is a legitimate chance, I would say more than ever before, that Amanda comes back angry and motivated, beats the shit out of Juliana in round 1 of a rematch, knocks her the fuck out cold, and then retires after she gets her belt back, just to make a point, because she's already mentioned several times she doesn't know how much longer she's going to do this. She knows she's approaching the end of her career, and she's not so delusional to think she's going to do this forever. She knows her time is very limited and she's approaching the end of her career. This might be that thing to give Amanda that one last real fire light up, to just come back, beat the shit out of Juliana to prove that the first one was a fucking fluke. And as soon as that's done, be like, okay, good, now here's my gloves. I'm done. And bowing out, because nobody can say shit to her regardless.
The only problem I would have with her bowing out after going and beating her ass is we know Dana is going to put that belt into a fucking frozen lake for fucking 2 years before they allow a new fucking champion a la Khabib. Because that's how he feels about Amanda.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, that's another one of his bromances where I don't want to let the bro go. Dude, let him go. Let him fucking go.
Yeah, I agree completely. But it's definitely one of, I will say this, it wasn't the biggest MMA upset in history, but it might have been one of the biggest ladies MMA upsets in MMA history. I will say it is absolutely bigger than when she did that to Ronda, or when Holly did that to Ronda, I think.
Or
just because of what Amanda has done up to this point versus what Ronda had done at this point. Ronda was monumental when she ran into Holly and Amanda. Don't get me wrong, but that compared to what Amanda has built her resume on since then, I think this is the bigger shakeup for women's MMA, not so much MMA overall, but definitely for the ladies, at least for the UFC. This was a pretty big shakeup.
hell yeah. And to be quite honest, bigger MMA upset, in my own opinion, Chris Weidman and Anderson Silva, the first one.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a way bigger upset because nobody thought Anderson Silva was going to get knocked out.
Right.
And Weidman fucking dinked him.
Left out of nowhere, baby. Yep.
And no, it's still very impressive fucking upset. I feel bad for that poor bastard who bet like fucking $318,000 on that fight.
$318,000 bet to win $394,000 if she won.
Yeah, wasn't a dick win. Like, that was probably, look, the odds were way stacked in that dude's favor, but we all know MMA.
We say it all the fucking time, man. There's no such thing as a guarantee in MMA. The most educated guess in the world is still just that. In MMA, it's an educated guess. There's no fucking guarantee when that cage closes.
We've seen it.
Learn that lesson the $300,000 way.
Fuck yeah, and we've seen that so many goddamn times with really good fighters. So you expect to show up and just whip some fucking ass, and what happens? The lights are on, but nobody's home.
Yep.
Nothing much ado about nothing. You know? It's,
unfortunately, such was the case.
Yeah.
But that'll bring us to our main event from last Saturday, the lightweight strap on the line. Charles Dubronx Oliveira, Dustin the Diamond Poirier going at it. The second time in a year Poirier has gotten himself a chance at the strap. And the second time that Poirier has gotten choked out as a result of it. I will say, to make that extra ironic and a double glitch in the Matrix, this is also the second time in a row Charles Oliveira has fought for the title, and the second time in a row that he has gotten clipped and almost knocked out in the first round by his opponent, and then come back to win in the later round. Chandler got KO'd in the second. Poirier got submitted in the third. I think the real takeaway that isn't getting talked about enough from UFC 269 isn't that Poirier got choked out his second title fight in a row, isn't that Bronx had two close title fights in a row but won them both. It's, look at Charles Oliveira slowly but surely just stacking a fucking resume of names. He already holds the most submission victories in the UFC. He is tied with Cowboy for the most finishes in the UFC. It's getting to a point now where it's kind of silly to just overlook Charles Oliveira, but people still are. He was the underdog going into his title defense and won very handily once he survived another very serious test of a round one, to come back and put on a stunning champion-like performance in the later rounds and show that he can weather a storm and still come back and intelligently beat your ass and do what he needs to do.
Yeah, he can, without a shadow of a fucking doubt.
Yeah, we saw the Chandler fight. Chandler hit him fucking hard in round one. We saw Saturday night, Poirier hit him clean and hard in round one and had him in just as serious trouble. And he weathered them both.
Yeah, look, the problem is this: nobody has paid attention to Charles do Bronx Oliveira for a very long time, except for those of us who have been watching MMA religiously.
Right.
The reason for that is he's not allowed. He is not a flashy guy. So he's not getting the same sort of what's the word I'm looking for here? He's not getting the same sort of coverage that other fighters get because they're allowed. Fuck, even Paddy Pimblett gets more fucking coverage than him, and he's only been in the UFC for what, 2 fights?
Yeah.
Just saying. Fuck it, it's weird things, which, I mean, go back, look at the dude's resume. Yeah, he had a rough patch in the middle there, but he's been on a steady, just slow, creepity, crawlity incline, and he's beaten a lot of the same names that Khabib has beaten. Look, if Poirier had won, and I say if Poirier had won because he didn't, if Poirier had won, Khabib could have went, yep, definitely GOAT. But right now, on the incline where Charles Oliveira is at, and his stat line where he's at as far as finishes, fucking bonuses, and all of that, he's beating Khabib out as far as GOAT status is concerned. If he continues this, Khabib might have to get off the couch and put Eagle FC on the back burner for a second, train, and come back and fight it. Because you know what? That would be the only, right now, I'm kind of seeing Khabib teetering on that GOAT status, and I hated to say it, but to be honest, I was one of those guys. I don't like Khabib, but I respected them fucking man for what he's done in the sport. And yeah, I did think for a while that he was on GOAT status, but now seeing what we're seeing out of Oliveira lately, there is a very good chance he could push Khabib right off of the fucking top of that peak there.
Well, especially how he handled the aftermath of 269. He knew that Gaethje was sitting in the audience and that Gaethje was right there and said right away, if Gaethje's next, let's do it. Let's line it up. And then afterwards, when, of course, Conor tweeted, when do I fight Oliveira? Oliveira responded immediately, we can fight next month. line it up. Are you ready to go? Sign the contract. We can do this. Like, you can skip Justin Gaethje. I'll fight you right now. We can fight next week on that last December UFC card. Let's go. I'm ready right now. If you're ready to come back, sign up. Let's do it. You can jump the line, Connor.
Yeah. The way he's
not only was he ready to take on number one contender, he was ready to try and shut Connor up as well.
Oh yeah, he's doing a brilliant fucking job as far as that's concerned and managing everything. So my hat's off to him. And to be honest, I hope he keeps at it.
Yeah, I like the way he's handling everything right now. I really do. So, that being said, Dana got the checkbook out Saturday night. It definitely doesn't happen this much often, but Dana spent a lot of money in bonuses Saturday night. We did get a fight of the night, traditional fight of the night, which I fucking love. I'm a fan of. Pedro Munoz versus Dominic Cruz, which I absolutely agree was a fucking hell of a war and could absolutely earn fight of the night. Performance of the night bonuses go as follows. Charles Oliveira for his finish of Dustin Poirier, understandable. Juliana Pena for her finish of Amanda Nunes, understandable. Kaya Kara France for his finish of Cody Garbrandt, absolutely understandable. Taya Tuivasa for his finish of Augusto Sakai, absolutely understandable. Bruno Silva for his decimation of Jordan Wright, and then Sean O'Malley for getting past Julian Paiva, which I don't agree with, but if you're going to put him on the fucking main card and he gets his knockout, whatever. But other than King Crusher O'Malley, I agree with every one of those. Lots of big fucking payout bonuses. That was pretty goddamn cool. New champ, old champ, both got bonuses. Kai got a bonus for sending Cody into fucking Nowheresville. Ty got a shoey bonus. Like, not a bad night. Not a bad night all the way around. Quick little wrap up before we jump into news here. Last little bit of recap, however you want to look at it, from last Sunday's Submission Underground 29 card. Two matches that I'm going to talk about overall. Decent event overall. Two matches stand out the most to me, though. One, Sean Strickland versus Andy Varela. If you haven't seen that fucking clip yet, you can probably guess by Golfy and I both immediately starting to laugh when I bring it up. Sean Strickland did not disappoint. You know damn well when Sean Strickland steps in a cage, it's going to be entertaining if nothing else. That's exactly the same situation in Submission Underground as it was in traditional UFC. Sean came to have a good time and basically get an unconventional workout in, getting ready to go face Jack Hermanson. Excuse me. Unconventional workout he absolutely got. At one point he tried to kick trip Andy Varela, which didn't work. He turned around and put his hands up, don't shoot style to Andy Varela, who, not to be one to waste an opportunity, immediately jumped on Sean's back like a fucking spider monkey, locked the backpack, locked the choke in, and Sean was like, oh shit, front flips to try and reverse slam Varela, which doesn't work because he's a fucking pro, and he tightens up to which Sean had to fucking tap. Hats off for being a fucking madman and willing to go in there and literally put your neck on the line against Andy Varela. But oh my God, Sean Strickland might be one of the most entertaining UFC fighters they have on the fucking roster right now, I think. Andy Varela wins by rear naked choke, but even though it was one of the shortest, it was also one of the most entertaining matches on the entire fucking card. The other one that I want to talk about real quick, though, actually didn't even take place on the original, or I guess it will be original, Submission Underground 29 card, which was intended to originally be split into the Submission Underground 29 main bulk of the matches, I guess would be the better term, which would take place on UFC Fight Pass, And then Andy Varela versus Sean Strickland, because it was a freak show match, essentially, was going to take place on Chael's YouTube channel as its own little independent thing. Surprise, surprise, Andy Varela showed up late. That puts a hamper on a live broadcast, especially when, in the day and age that we live, there are health protocols that are required before someone can show up and then compete in a match. Showing up late pushes those medical clearances back, making them take longer. So instead of originally seeing Andy Varela versus Sean Strickland on Chael's YouTube channel, what we actually got to see instead on Chael's YouTube channel, and I'm pretty sure it's still up there, the Submission Underground Tag Team Championship match went live on the YouTubes. Absolute fucking props to Team BTT for using the literal strategy that was used by the champions to win the belt themselves against them more effectively and taking the belt from them. And in doing so, Charlie Gilpin, the only competitor in Submission Underground who does not have a black belt, earned himself his brown belt in winning the tag team belt, which he properly immediately took off and put on his shoulder to receive his fucking brown belt. That, I think, was probably the coolest moment of the whole fucking event, because you could immediately tell how much more that brown belt meant to him than the tag team belt. The tag team belt, clearly a cool thing to win, but this was a display of martial arts on Showcase, and the reward for that in real time, and you saw the impact it had on Charlie Gilpin in that moment. Even Chael got a little choked up seeing it happen. It was pretty fucking cool, in my opinion.
That's always one of my favorite things to see. Like, when a guy legitimately earns it, whether it's in an MMA bout or fucking even a submission grappling.
He was working, man. So
you earn that shit, to be quite honest. Look, for anybody who's never done jiu-jitsu is not like, it's not along the same lines as like a karate or something like that, where you get belts by passing tests. Yes, there are tests along the way, so you get tested up to like a certain belt, but then at a certain point, it's, can you do all of these things while thinking 10 steps ahead and do them proficiently? And then can you tie it in with other things? And there's a whole bunch of things when it comes to jiu-jitsu in order to be able to get to that really high level, a la brown belt, black belt. Look, anybody who says brown belt's nothing in jiu-jitsu is full of shit. That is years and years of fucking just constant training. Getting to black belt level
for Charlie to get there.
Yeah, and getting to a black belt level from a legitimate jiu-jitsu school, that's tough. Don't get me wrong. You always see people in MMA where they're like, oh, they have their black belt from whatever knockoff Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Yeah, okay. You got a black belt, but that's not the same thing. Right. Like where he's earning it, that dude fucking earned it. And that's an amazing feat. And that is definitely way more important than that fucking tag team belt will ever be.
Right. Well, that, and the other thing about it is that, like I said, Charlie Gilpin is the only person on the Submission Underground roster who was allowed to compete without a black belt. The application process to Submission Underground, Chael was talking about this during the live. There was two things: black belts or better, so black belt or black belt with any stripe, or active MMA combatant. Charlie Gilpin doesn't fight MMA. Charlie Gilpin's not signed to the UFC. He's not signed to Bellator. But he stepped in as a last-minute alternative in a tournament against black belts and submitted a black belt in, I believe it was 2 minutes and 5 seconds, his first short notice match out there, thus getting him to be allowed to keep competing, and has spent the last 2.5 years competing and winning against nothing but black belts as a purple belt. So for him to spend that much time choking and fucking fighting off nothing but black belts, seeing him earn his brown belt doing it against two other black belts was that much cooler for me. It was a nice.
And the best part is even though those guys lose, if you saw the respect given to him when he earned the brown belt, that was fucking amazing.
Yeah, everybody there recognized how cool it was. That was a nice touch.
It really is. Like that's a beautiful moment for them to have, and the more that Chill's doing shit like that, and we're seeing stuff like that over there, I really hope that takes off. Speaking of which, what do you think is going to happen with his Submission Underground no longer being on UFC Fight Pass?
I don't know. I've heard two things. I've heard two different rumors because I've talked to a couple of way more popular journalists than us about this in the last week or two. And there's basically two schools of thought going around on what's going to happen with Submission Underground now that this was his last event on Fight Pass. One is that he signed a deal with Fight TV because Fight TV also hosts all of the Bellator stuff. They also host all the PFL. They host all the stuff that gets carried by DAZN because they're a partner company of them. So they host a fair decent bit of combat sports themselves. The other thing that I heard that he might be doing though, might be going directly to the fuck is it called? Oh, brain fart. Not Fight TV. Fucking damn, full brain fart. Yeah, Fight TV or something else. Straight ESPN Plus.
That's what I
no
was
longer
thinking.
Fight Pass.
I was thinking going along the ESPN
There's
Plus.
a short circuit there across. Yes, either Fight TV or ESPN Plus.
For those of you who don't have ESPN Plus, I have it myself. They do a lot of I won't say off the wall sports on there, but not stuff that you're going to see on the main ESPN channel.
Unconventional. They play a lot of the ESPN the Ocho Overflow, I think.
Some of those types of things, but like you're seeing stuff like college volleyball, which never will show up on main fucking ESPN. There's small soccer or footy leagues, if you will, depending on what part of the world you're in, but things that you're not normally going to see on a normal ESPN. When I say smaller leagues, I'm talking small football leagues, like small teams where it's little clubs and they might have 100 people in the stands type shit.
Right. So, teams that have like two alternates kind of thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could definitely see them going there because not to mention, it's still in cahoots with the UFC then, and ESPN is all about the fucking MMA type stuff lately. And I mean, there's a reason why they paid fucking so much goddamn money to have them go to ESPN Plus.
That's correct.
I'm just saying, makes sense that they would do the same thing for Chael, especially now that, to be quite honest, that is really taken off over on Submission Underground. It's no longer in the middle of a fucking cornfield in some fucking silo. Like, he's legitimately fucking taking off.
Yeah, they're making it a whole thing now, and I'm cool with it, man. I fucking love it. So I'm happy to see it taken off, and I really hope that they're not just getting swept to the wayside, or they're going to end up doing it. You know, not that it's a bad thing, but I don't want to see Submission Underground get to a point where it's only being broadcast on Chael's YouTube channel. Like, no. This deserves to be carried by someone to be distributed, whether it's fucking DAZN or even, God forbid, Triller has to fucking pick it up. It deserves to be shown somewhere.
If it's Triller, keep it on the YouTubes. Fuck it.
Right.
Even if you make it a subscription only thing, fuck it. Because you can do the subscription only on your channel thing. Do that if you have to, but do not put it on Triller, whatever the fuck you do.
Right. Yeah, no, I want to see it get picked up somewhere. I don't want to see it fall to the wayside because they ended their UFC Fight Pass contract. I say with air quotes.
Yeah.
But that'll bring us into our news and recent events segment here. First one I want to jump into is the 269 medical suspensions, because they are in Vegas, are already released. And as is often the case, we have learned to see when fights are in Vegas, there are generally two types of medical suspensions. You are out for 2 weeks, heal up, and then get back at it, or you are out for 6.5 months unless you are cleared by a doctor. This is absolutely one of those situations. The issue is that some of them are a little more questionable than we have seen in recent times. First, I'll read you the 6-month list. So if you see if some of these names aren't there that you would expect. Sean O'Malley, right hand, must get cleared by a doctor or he's out until June 10th. Pedro Munoz, broken right foot, must be cleared by a doctor or out until June 10th. Miranda Maverick, broken left foot, must be cleared by a doctor or out till June 10th. Tony Kelly, left shoulder, must be cleared by orthopedic doctor or out until June 10th. That's it. Amanda Nunes, who got choked out, suspended until January 26th. Dustin Poirier, who got choked out, suspended until January 11th. Cody Garbrandt got knocked the fuck out cold, suspended until January 26th. Leon Paiva, knocked out, January 26th. Augusto Sakai, folded like a motherfucking lawn chair, February 10th. Only because he got an upper lip laceration in getting knocked out. Otherwise, he'd have been on that fucking January 11th list as well. Like, come on, Vegas. The fuck, really? That being said, though, another interesting tidbit from UFC 269 that has come out since then that wasn't necessarily shown on the UFC cameras, at least. In the moment that Juliana Pena won that match and got the belt, her 13-year-long training partner, one Michael the Maverick Chiesa, who was front and center, heavily consuming party favors as his teammate was fighting for the belt. Upon seeing said teammate win the belt, cartwheels over the barricade, stumble runs along the cage to try and climb into the octagon, falling on the metal staircase, catching his fucking head, splitting his eyebrow open. Finally gets backstage, hugs Juliana because he's so proud of his teammate, then gets in an argument with the police and gets thrown out of the building arguing with the fucking cops.
You know, all I can do is
I
laugh.
get it.
It's not something that you would expect out of Michael Chiesa.
No, it was very out of character for sure.
Look, I get it. Everybody has those days. Just hopefully he doesn't do that as a regular thing. I get it. You got to blow off some steam. And of course, you're going to party hardy when you got a fucking multi-year teammate fighting for a title and then pulling it off. Yeah, go hard in the fucking paint. But don't go so hard in the paint that you end up needing stitches, dude. It's...
Right.
And I look, I'll say it. I like Michael Chiesa. I've always liked him. He's great on the fucking microphone. He's a pretty goddamn good fighter, even though he's had a little bit of a rough patch here lately. But I mean, to be quite honest, fuck it. Blow off some steam, man. Hopefully it don't happen again. I really wish that they would have caught more of that on the cameras, because that, to be quite honest, that sounds like something out of a fucking circus act.
And the funny thing is that the replays that have come out showing that happen almost verify that the UFC cameras, who were literally right there were two cameramen right there facing that section because of all the teammates that were there, literally ignored Chiesa ass over tea kettling over the barricade and almost eating shit doing that, and then standing up and noticeably inebriated, wobble running and a fucking hard lean around the octagon to get to the other side. And they literally stepped out of the way to let him go through so that they could bring the camera back to actor Maine Sterling, who was just completely befuddled at what he had seen, and oh my goodness, could not believe it. And go figure, Maine Sterling overacting on something that wasn't nearly as exciting as it was portrayed to be.
That dude's a fucking clown, no matter what. Oh, I can't wait till he gets his shit kicked in. God, I can't wait.
You and me both, man. It's like, fuck him. Fuck him. Moving on from there. We got the announcements. January 29th, Bellator 273. Ryan Bader will be defending his heavyweight belt, which is the only one he's got left, against Valentin Moldavsky, one of the top heavyweight prospects over in the Bellator side of things. And for most people's money, probably the guy who's going to take Bader's other belt. I'm not really mad at it. I don't really feel like Bader had to fight much competition to get either one of those belts. So I wasn't really mad when I saw Nemkov take the first one from him. Don't really think I'm going to feel that bad because I'm pretty sure Moldavsky's going to take the other one from him here. The only thing that's really going to be interesting is Moldavsky going to keep it, or is Nemkov going to really try and Ryan Bader it and then come take the other belt like he did the first one? I don't know if Nemkov is big enough to play with some of those heavyweights, but he does have a hell of a gas tank and he can outwork a lot of them big boys up there if that's what it came down to. So things could get real interesting in the heavyweight department of Bellator real fast coming into 2022. Back over to the UFC side of things, though, also getting weird right out of the gate in the new year. We officially got word that the Derrick Brunson versus Jared Cannoniere fight that was originally scheduled for January's UFC 270 card has now been moved and will take place on the February 12th UFC 271 card. But no reason from anyone, including Brunson, Cannoniere, or the UFC involved for why the fuck they're moving it an entire month from one pay-per-view to another in a fight that doesn't really matter that much to begin with.
The same reason
the rumor
on my birthday card.
Right. The rumor is, though, they're trying to get this onto 271 so they can make it the co-main event before Izzy Whittaker 2 as the main event, which we technically still don't even really know if it's really a thing or not, because Dana said it was, but Izzy said cap, so we'll see. And contrary to what he said in the post-fight press conference, Dana has absolutely 100% lied about fights numerous times in the past, despite saying, when the fuck have we ever lied? Lots of times, asshole. I could take all fucking day and do a separate episode on just that.
We should.
We really should do a whole just fuck Dana White all the times he's lied to us.
How many
Like
times
a bonus feature for next summer or something.
Exhibit A, exhibit
right. All the fucking
Z.
wolf tickets Dana White's ever fucking sold, cocksucker. But
he's a
moving on from
promoter.
there.
Go figure.
Right. But from there we go back over again to the Bellator side of the house for the Bellator Dublin event on February 25th. Gegard Mousasi has got his next assignment in the form of Mr. Paige Van Zant. They are officially giving Austin Vanderford his shot at the middleweight belt. Look, props for getting yourself to that belt, but this very much feels like a Valentina situation where you're just the latest branch getting thrown into a fucking chipper. Especially considering the difference in fucking experience and techniques between the two of them. Props on Austin to get in here, but it's only because of the fucking competition in the middleweight division over in Bellator right now, in my opinion. It's not like he's had anything significant to offer, and it's not like he poses much of a genuine threat to Mousasi to begin with. So we'll see how it plays out, but I have a strong feeling that belt's not fucking going anywhere.
No, I doubt it. And to be quite honest, the only way he wins that fight is with the puncher's chance, because the dude does have some legitimate power. But other than that, there's not a whole lot to his game that Mousasi hasn't seen before.
Yeah, and the only time we've really seen Mousasi really have any problems recently was when he tried to go down and fucking take the 170 belt and do the champ shit.
Yeah.
And that's too much of a cut for him. Clearly, he works beautifully at 85. Stop fucking around at 70. Stay at 85. Hold that motherfucker down because Gegard Mousasi is a bad son of a bitch.
Oh, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. Next little piece here that I had no choice but to giggle out loud when I fucking read. A pair, not one, but two of the soup cans from Dana White's Tuesday Night Soup Can series, whose names I don't remember, but it doesn't matter because they're fucking soup cans. But not one, but two of those soup cans from this season have now been officially suspended by USADA for juicing. Two different soup cans, two different juices, two different fight nights. Fuck them both. They shouldn't have been on TV to begin with. And this is just more proof. Now you've got fucking nobodies juicing to get a shot at a fucking UFC contract because Dana's giving these assholes TV time.
Yep.
Ridiculous. The nobodies are juicing now.
Yeah, to go along with everybody else that's juicing.
Right? I mean, Nick said it a long time ago that everybody's on steroids. Now even the nobodies are too. So it's like, fuck, man.
And apparently Sean Strickland's saying everybody's on steroids too now.
Right? No shit.
I'll say that was one of the greatest interviews I've seen in a while. But
Yeah.
he's up there with fucking Derrick Lewis when it
I
comes
was
to
gonna
talking.
say Sean Strickland is really becoming a fucking hot mic fucking spectacular himself too.
Oh, yeah.
But moving on from there to a very less pleasant fucking story. We got official confirmation yesterday that John Jones has officially struck a plea deal with the Nevada County authorities. He pled guilty to destruction of other people's property, a misdemeanor which cost him a $230 fine and a mandatory anger management class. All other charges were dropped in their entirety as his agreement to the destruction of other people's property, $230 fine and anger management. So once again, John Jones, with evidence, is a world-class piece of shit and somehow manages to fucking wrangle out of it.
Yep. Not surprised. Got a really good fucking lawyer.
Disappointed, but not surprised.
I am impressed by his lawyer though. His lawyer's
I
got to
agree.
be fucking fantastic.
That motherfucker is earning his goddamn money. That's for sure. That's the real MVP of 2021 right there. John Jones' fucking attorney. But speaking of people who are out of their fucking minds, we learned Tuesday that Firas Zahabi, praised fucking trainer from TriStar Gym up in Canada, is gone out of his fucking mind as well. He went on a full-on tirade this week when he found out that last week during Christmas festivities at his son's school, one of the clips in a giant montages of videos that they showed to the middle school children was of two men kissing in the context of dozens of other couples kissing in the holiday season. And not ever having being exposed to that at all, apparently at home, Firas's son laughed at it and thought it was a joke. And the other kids in the class did not find anything funny about a genuine holiday emotional moment that it seemed like Firas's kid was mocking. So the school undoubtedly heard about it and called home to say something about it. And Firas went on a tirade about how educating children about LGBT in any fashion is feminizing men and demasculizing the nation. And they can do that to the rest of the world, but they won't do that to the Zahabi household. I'm not going to sit here by any stretch of the imagination and tell somebody else what they have to or can't believe. But when that's how you feel about that situation, That's how you feel about that situation. You don't need to push that bullshit on your kids, and you sure the fuck don't need to push that shit on your kids when your kids are being taught, like any rational child should be these days, that that's a part of life. The archaic thought process to think that there's something wrong or old worldly about having an alternative lifestyle is just that. It's archaic and it needs to fucking die. It's almost 2022. Get with the times. If you want to have silly beliefs, you are entitled to have them in the privacy of your home. But when you're out in the public, you don't get to hold open bigotry. Sorry, the world has moved on past that.
And the worst part is, dude lives in Canada, so if I'm not mistaken, they don't have a fucking freedom of speech or protection of speech.
Yeah, their First Amendment is not what the US's is.
Yeah.
And that statement very well could legitimately land him in some genuine trouble because he did not make it privately and he was not shy about it.
My thought is, you do whatever the fuck you want, as long as it's not infringing on someone else.
Right.
Look, if you want to teach your kids that, do it. Do I agree with it? No, not by any means. Let your kids make their own beliefs. The same thing, like, if you want to take your kids to church, sure, take them to church. If they choose not to believe in it, don't be mad at your kids. If they choose to go with it and you want to support them through it, cool. Look, I don't care what fucking lifestyle you have. You can fucking pretend you're goddamn My Little Pony for a living. If that's what you're into, you do that. Now, am I with all that? No, it's not me. But you do you, boo-boo. That is exactly how that should work. Yeah. I get it. To be quite honest, I think the only problem I have is that the school, in this case, I will say, the school probably could have handled it in a better light.
Yeah,
because look,
I can agree with that.
For this reason, kids will be kids. They're going to laugh at inappropriate shit.
They're middle schoolers.
A middle school child middle school in the U.S. is from 6th grade through 8th grade. Yeah. So you're looking at, 11 to about 13 years old, or 11 to 14 years old ish, somewhere in that category. Look, between 11 to 14. Look, if you'd have shown me two dudes kissing when I was 11 to 14 years old on TV, I probably would have laughed too, to be quite honest. It's not that I was brought up in that kind of house, because I was not. Look, I have gay uncles, I have fucking gay cousins and all this other shit. So it doesn't bother me. Look, whatever you do in the privacy of your own home, you do you. But I still laugh at that shit, because you know what? That's what I did at that age.
That's how teenage brains work.
Part of that is because you don't understand. I think the school probably could have went without saying anything to them and just kind of handling it with the student and just calling it a day. Be like, hey, man, probably shouldn't be laughing at that, but we get it. It could be found funny in your eyes. But
right, you're a 12-year-old boy. I get it. Everything can be funny at that point.
Try to just keep those kind of thoughts to yourself, type thing. Same thing where don't push your beliefs on someone else. But on the other side of that, as a hobby, that's a dangerous line to tiptoe. Don't get me wrong. I am all about men being masculine. If you want to be masculine, be fucking masculine. Teach your kids to be masculine. That's fucking great. If your kid doesn't want to go that route, though, you have to let them go the other route. I get it. You want everybody, myself included, has this idea of grandeur when it comes to being a parent of what you want your kids to see. And to be quite honest, I'm like this. I'm fucking tunnel vision with it. But when some of those things come up on the outside and you go, there's nothing you can do. You just got to let them do them. Look, It's okay to say what you want them to do, but kids aren't going to always do that. And then to make a big stink out of it, let it fucking go, dude. Right. Call yourself Elsa and start singing Let It Go, because that's what you need to fucking do. Because it's some bullshit. Just let people be people, period. That's all it is.
That's what I said. We're not here to sit and tell anybody what you should or shouldn't believe by any stretch of the imagination. I think my biggest problem with it, though, is the hill that he chose to die on. He's mad that his son saw two men kissing in a Christmas video. He's got no objection to the glorification of Santa Claus. His problem is with the two men kissing in the Christmas video. I think that might exactly be, like you said, one of those situations where Faraz has got those blinders on so tight, he's missing the forest for the tree in front of him.
And
We're going to talk about silly beliefs. You're going to perpetuate Santa Claus, but LGBT normality is weird or funny. Come on, Faraz. Come on.
Look, and that's the thing is if you're going to perpetuate things like I'd do it myself, Tooth Fairy, fucking Santa Claus, all of that shit.
Exactly.
Look,
Exactly.
My thoughts always been there's certain things with kids, especially now that I have them, that you have to kind of give into. Kids have wild imaginations to begin with. So yeah, you give them the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, and you make those moments magical so that way they can enjoy that, because it's not something they're going to enjoy forever. It's not.
Right.
Every kid grows out of it, realizes it's a bunch of bullshit. But you have to leave those things alone. But other things, like the LGBTQ community and horseplay or whatever other kind of fucking weird fetish things people are into, you know, and I say weird loosely. I mean weird because it's not something I'm into, but hey, all of those, respect their fucking choice. You don't have to agree with it, but just respect it. Look, there's a lot of things people do that I do not fucking agree with, but I'll respect it. I'll be like, all right, man, you do you. I'm not going to judge you for it, but I definitely am not going to get on board with it.
Right.
Now, am I going to go out and make a fucking public statement about it? Fuck no. That shit I keep to myself or to other like-minded individuals like myself. You want to talk to other like-minded individuals about it? By all means, do so.
Right, which probably could have kept Faraz from getting his ass handed to him in this situation if he'd just went to a buddy and been like, man, the shit they're making my kid watch at school.
Yeah, and you call it a fucking day. It didn't need to go any farther than that. I mean, look, there's some shit I'll say behind closed doors that I won't say in public because I don't want to offend people. It's not my thing. But two, I fucking know better. My parents taught me better. Like, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at fucking all. Period. Same thing with the golden rule type thing. Do unto others as you want them to do unto you. Look, I hope that entire community rips him a new fucking asshole. And I don't mean it in that way, but it just so happens if the shoe fucking fits.
Right.
Hopefully, I hope he falls, you know, I'll say it. I hope he falls backwards on an unlubed dildo.
It's just interesting to see the things that people get upset about and not in the same moment like that. But moving on from there, though, we also got a small smattering, I guess would be a good word, of announcements from the Eagle FC, Khabib's new organization here, regarding their plans moving forward and their upcoming January card. The first one that was a little bit weird was that they announced this last week that unfortunately Bigfoot Silva was out, but luckily Sergey Karatanov was going to step in to take on Tyrone Sprong for their headline on their January card, which, you know, cool to have somebody step up that quick, and another notable name that most hardcores will know to step up in such a short notice moment here. The issue comes when Bigfoot Silva talked to the press this week because they didn't talk to him about him not being able to compete in the main event. As far as he knew, he was headlining the main event against Tyrone Sprong and had just booked a ticket to Germany to go train with Gleason Tebow to prepare for it. And then he heard from a reporter who called him to ask him why he was out of the fight, that he was out of the fight. He didn't know he wasn't in the main event anymore until someone from a journalist or a reporter called him and asked him why he wasn't. He never got told by the organization and said he still hasn't heard back from any of the management in Eagle FC to this day as to why he's suddenly out.
You know what that tells me? Khabib was hanging out with Dana way too much because he took a couple plays right out his fucking playbook on that one. Same thing of releasing a fighter and not telling them, and come to find out from a reporter, well, they're doing something for the promotion, and they're cut. Same type of style. Look, this is what happens when you hang out with people too long. You pick up on some of their bad habits. And look, I get it. It's a fight game. Fucking promotions change. Look, to be quite honest, I like the idea of Karatanov being in there better than I do Bigfoot Silva by a long fucking shot.
Agreed.
But you don't do your fighter like that. If you're going to do your fighter like that, call him.
Exactly. At least tell the man.
Send a message.
Found somebody else. We're going to go with somebody else. Thank you for the opportunity that you were going to give us. We'll definitely catch you back for it later on.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. Fucking call his manager. You don't even have to call the fighter. Call his fucking manager.
Yeah.
Shoot the guy
down the fucking line. Yeah.
At least be decent enough to do that shit. But hey, it's the fight business. Shady shit happens in the fight business, dude.
Right.
For those of you who don't know, shady shit happens in the fight business.
Right. Well, and the interesting thing is that this was the only real bad part in the interesting slew of news that we got about Eagle FC, because aside from them letting Bigfoot kind of just get pushed to the wayside, they did also make news with another recent acquisition that they picked up. Aside from Sergey Karatanov stepping in to take on that main event, they also signed fairly quickly. Recently, UFC released Kevin Lee, who will be fighting in the Eagle FC's premiering 165-pound division, which leads us into the other big announcement from Eagle FC. They will launch with weight classes of 135, 145, 155, 165, 175, 185, 205, and heavyweight. They're implementing some changes that other organizations aren't, but then still from 205 up.
I like everything up into that 205 point.
Same here.
To be quite honest, my favorite though is the addition of they weren't going to do 165 initially. That's why they sent Kevin Lee though. Then they made a 165. Do you know how many fighters are going to want to go fight over there because they can't they're too small for 170, but they have too much of a hard time trying to make 155? Look, to be honest, that is fucking fantastic. And if anything, that's what I'll tune in for the most is the 165-pound division over there.
Well, and the other side of that as well that people might not think about is that they don't just add a 165. In adding the 165, they bumped welterweight to 175. Those guys who were just a little too small to fight at 185 healthy, but weren't quite big enough to fight 170 and really get the advantage of the weight cut. That 75 is going to be the same thing between lightweight and traditional welterweight on the other side of it as well. There's going to be a whole range of dudes who, might not be big enough to make their traditional 205 or are, not quite fast enough at 185, but with the 75 here, some of the guys they would have been fighting at 85 won't be there anymore because they'll be dropping to that 75 range. There's a waterfall, a cascading effect that's going to shift down, I think, over there with a lot of opportunities for fighters who don't fit in to traditional weight categories.
With those changes too, I think you're going to see a lot of their fighters fighting closer to their natural weight than you do in other organizations, which is fucking fantastic. And to be quite honest, I hope it does well for that reason. And then it forces some of those other organizations to look at themselves and go, you know what? Maybe we do at least need to add a 165-pound division or something in there just to kind of make the scales a little bit better. Maybe go and push the welterweight up to 175, Right. Because those things would make a huge fucking difference. Not to mention, I think it would do a lot for their profits. Fuck ton. Because you're going to get way more fighters that are going to be willing to fight in those classes, because there's already tons of fighters out there that bitch and complain about not having a 165-pound division. a ton.
All the time. Yep.
So, to be honest, that might be one of Khabib's biggest draws to Eagle FC is those fucking divisions right there. That 65, 75. Those are going to be a big draw for fighters.
It'll be a big deal, man. It really will.
Now, are they going to like what he did with his first opening card? Probably not, but you know.
But we'll see what he does after that as well, too. The other two big announcements that we got with this Eagle FC schmattering, the first one is that they have officially announced their broadcast team going forward. Excuse me. It will be a 3-piece broadcast team in the U.S. going forward. The first member of the team will be Cyrus Fees, a person that most folks may recognize most for being the announcer, ring announcer for Dana White's Soup Can series. He's the guy that kicks off most of those Tuesday night fights. The other person sitting in to be broadcast number 2 will be the cringe master himself, Henry Cejudo. Sitting beside him for the third and final member of the broadcast team is recently retired UFC veteran Felicia Spencer. Extra ironic that Felicia Spencer will be making the third member of the broadcast team because Khabib also rounded out this plethora of announcements by saying that as of right now, there are none and no plans to have any women fighting in Eagle FC. Not that it's a shock, but it's interesting for him to actually make those public announcements now.
Yeah. Not surprised considering how he's always stated doesn't want to see women fight, doesn't want to see ring girls.
Ring girls, yep, yeah.
So,
I kind of anticipated something like this, but it has been officially confirmed.
at
Last
least
little
he
part
can do his guns.
Last little part of the Eagle FC stuff here. Even though Eagle FC is based in Russia and an international fight organization, Khabib has said from the beginning that his intentions were to make this sort of a feeder organization towards the UFC so that he can help international fighters get into the UFC. And in doing so, he has apparently put his money where his mouth is. They have now built what is being called the FLX Arena in Miami, Florida, which is essentially, excuse me, I got hiccups now, which is essentially going to serve as Khabib and Eagle FC's Apex Arena. They have got their ring, their broadcast center, and basically everything the Apex has in this FLX Arena for Eagle FC, built specifically for them to do this exact thing here. So it's going to be interesting moving forward. They've got a new U.S. headquarters. They've got their own little Apex Center. They've got Khabib and some notable names helping them bring their first U.S. show in. It's going to be interesting to see how this goes because I don't know if this first show is going to go off very smoothly, but very few first shows for any promotion in the U.S. trying to make a name for themselves do. I'm genuinely more curious to how his next show is going to go, more so than this one. But it's going to be interesting to see where Khabib and Eagle FC end up in the grand scheme of things.
You know, and being as he's using it as a farm company for the UFC, I'm sure he's going to get a lot of backing from the UFC, and so I think they'll do all right.
Yeah,
because Dana will be like, "Well, that's less contender shit that I have to run." Hopefully,
right.
God,
Fingers fucking crossed.
we could do without that.
Right. But the last piece that I've got for the news and recent events segment here, we have got, and I apologize because I don't have the gentlemen's names or the actual city that they are from, but it is kind of making its way around the MMA journalism circuit now. This last week, we officially had what I was so happy to see, politicians putting their money where their mouth is, quite literally. We had a mayor and a city councilman face off to settle their differences in a fucking octagon in an MMA match. And this was not two drunk karaoke dudes having a slap fight. This was two legitimate dudes who have both done a fair little bit of training, having an actual dad bod rocking full on fucking MMA match. And if you watch it, some of the fucking leg kicks that fucking city councilman threw were UFC caliber low calf kicks and fucking hard low fucking calf kicks. Almost took him out. Almost took the mayor out. The mayor, on the other hand, had a fucking devastating right overhand for a fucking politician. Both of them legitimately held their own a lot better than a lot of up and coming prospect UFC fighters and Bellator fighters that we have seen. And at the end of the match, much like 99.8% of all fucking UFC matches and MMA matches in general that we watch, despite the ominous and very blatant bad blood leading into the match, when the fucking bell rang at the end of it, they fucking shook hands and did a fucking unanimous fucking hand in hand, we won this shit, because they went the whole fucking distance and legitimately went for the whole of the fucking 3-round match. I 100% wish that we could get some United States politicians to do that. I would absolutely start taking up fucking collections and picking up cans to recycle to sponsor the fucking fight kit to see Mitch McConnell get his old ass in the ring and take some real fucking thrashing for all this shit that he runs his mouth, or like Senator Robert Kennedy with his fucking goofy Southern accent will get in there and throw some punches. Like, I would love to see some of these loudmouth U.S. politicians get in there and actually have to fucking swing to get their fucking grudges settled. But bravo to the Brazilian mayor and city councilman. It's nice to see two gentlemen who not only are willing to step up and actually settle the difference, but then once it's all over, show some fucking respect like MMA generally encourages.
I like the idea of that in the U.S. Problem with that is a lot of the U.S. senators now, or are starting to become U.S. senators, or former military. They'll fuck up some of those other dudes. In a bad way.
I understand that.
But, you know, I like the ideas of it.
How do I phrase this without sounding like a complete piece of shit? Sacrifices might have to be made, but a juiced up Nancy Pelosi, I'm willing to make them for.
Oh, a roided out Pelosi, Jesus Christ.
I mean, think about what Chuck Schumer would look like if he had Alistair Overeem's horse meat diet. The little glasses hanging off his nose, but a fucking 8-pack. Like, we could make politics really interesting. It's all I'm saying.
You know, the only problem I would see with that is if they're all juiced to the fucking gills so they could do that, think about what's going to happen when they actually have House committee meetings and shit like that. There's going to be fucking problems. Like, there's going to be bloodbaths in the fucking... It's going to look like some shit in ancient Greece.
I mean, you think Marjorie Taylor Greene says some crazy shit now. Wait till that roid rage kicks in and she rips the podium off and throws it up into the Democratic section. Like, shit could get interesting, man. It could make politics a lot more fun. That's all I'm saying.
And the roids might kill a couple of them, though.
Like I said, some sacrifices may have to be made, but
natural selection.
As they say, the greater good.
Fire them all.
Oh, but that being said, we do have a UFC card this weekend that does have some interesting fights for the last UFC matchup of the year that I do want to take just a little bit of time here with my buddy Golf T to go over and talk to you fine folks about. Being the last card of the year period and B, a fight night, you gotta expect there's gonna be a little bit of fluff on here because they're trying to cram those folks who just have to get their last fight of the year on the contract in, and I get that. But there are a couple on this card that actually do look pretty fucking interesting. One of the ones that I'm immediately drawn to out of fucking sheer curiosity, if nothing else, Raquel Pennington taking on Macy Chezon, who again was not the original opponent, but again, an interesting matchup nonetheless. If no other reason, then not only is this not the original intended matchup, but this is Raquel Pennington fighting at featherweight. We've seen Raquel Pennington do the vast majority of her body at work at bantamweight. I am very curious to see if maybe she just has a little more of what she was seeming to lack without having to cut that extra 10 pounds. we've seen it happen in several athletes before. There's no reason to think that it couldn't be the exact same situation here with Pennington. We've seen her be world class. And maybe it was that she was just cutting so much fucking weight that at 35, she couldn't really get to her full potential. And that extra 10 pounds that she might not have to cut might make for a real bad night for Macy Chezon. But I'm very fucking curious to find out.
You know, to be quite honest, I hope she does well. I hope she does well at this weight class. Because to be quite honest, she's been a good staple in the UFC, and I say good staple because she always comes to put up. She's literally the epitome of put up or shut up when it comes to go fight. She will fight her fucking ass off. So hopefully this change in weight classes, not having to cut as much, hopefully it fucking does her some good. However, Macy Chezon, that's a pretty tall fucking order for your first fight at fucking featherweight over there. So,
right.
Good luck, and that one definitely has some interesting potential going on there.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how it plays out. Excuse me. The next one down the list here that I'm very curious to see how it plays out. If nothing else, because I'm going to giggle when they say the name out loud on the fucking event as well. Justin Tafa, Mark Protege, versus Harry Hunsucker. I'm still going to giggle when they get
giggle every time I
say that name. I don't care. I'm a perpetual fucking teenage boy. I'm still going to laugh. But aside from the hilarious fucking giggly name, I'm very curious to see where Justin Tafa is actually going to end up here, because there was a while there where Justin Tafa looked like he had that same Mark Hunt level fucking world breaker potential. And then we saw some just cold feet performances from him as well, where he really got fucking handled. I'm really curious to see where he's going to fly out in this situation here, because the last time we saw Harry, that ice cream cone shaped motherfucker was trying to swing for the goddamn fences and throw everything he's got into every shot. And while Tafa might have a hell of a hand himself, he also is very much like his fucking namesake, or the protege, Mark Hunt, in that he'll stand and trade to try and land that one big shot, kind of throwing caution to the wind. And that's not always the best technique, especially against a Dorito-shaped motherfucker like Harry Hunsucker.
Yeah, and to be quite honest, I think Harry only got this fight because he took his last fight on short notice against a dangerous Tai Tuivasa, which he in turn got knocked out.
Right.
But this is, to be quite honest, I think they're trying to tough a bone here, going, hey, if you can't win this fight, you're getting walking papers. He's lost 3 of his 4 UFC fights. He's 1 in 4. He might still get walking papers even if he wins the fight.
Right, yeah. If he doesn't do anything spectacular or impressive,
the only thing that's kept him on the roster is probably because old Mark Hunt probably called in a favor and was like, hey, look, the dude's just in a bit of a rough spell. Give him a little bit of time. I think that's the only reason he's still on the roster, because you've lost 2 of your last 3. I get it. You lose your first fight in the UFC, not a big deal. You win the second, okay, there's some potential there. Then 3rd and 4th fight, both fucking losses. Yeah, you might not be UFC material, man. Even though you are the protege of the walk-off fucking Kiwi. I'm just saying, you know.
Right, yeah. Sometimes the apple falls a little further from the tree than it's suspected to have.
And that's why he's a protege, not a fucking clone.
Exactly. But that's part of why I'm curious. I want to see how that plays out Saturday night, because I think that'll tell us a lot going forward. I think if Tafa can put on a performance, can go out there and just fucking flatline Harry, I think it'll do a lot of good for him, both in confidence and in stability in the UFC. But if he goes out there and just fucking boring fights his way to a decision, win or loss, or gets leveled by Hunsucker in the first, I think that's it. I think that's the last time we're going to see Tafa in the UFC. But he could turn it around. There is the potential, and that's kind of why it's got me so intrigued. But we'll see. The other one that I would absolutely fucking be remiss if I didn't talk about, the premier prelim fight for this weekend's card. Dustin Stoltzfus versus GM3 himself, Gerald fucking Mearshart. Stolfus is a very interesting prospect in the middleweight division, but I'm more curious about this fight, kind of like the last one, to see how GM3 plays out. We've seen him have a bit of a mixed bag as of late as well, but it seems like he's back on track. And for my money, when Gerald Mearshart is on, he's one of the best middleweights the UFC has, period. New, old, otherwise. He's one of the best the UFC has seen. The problem is he's had a little trick with consistency getting away from it. If he can stay on, though, this is going to be a real fucking rough night for Dustin Stolfus. And that's not to say he doesn't have the potential to throw a fucking wrench in Mearshart's plans. But if Mearshart shows up on point, focused, dialed in, man, I'm convinced he's still one of the best fucking middleweights in the UFC, period.
Yeah, he can be. And I say he can be, but I won't bet against him ever. But at the same time, GM3 is fucking, he's like a goddamn thermos. He is Schrodinger's thermos. It's either hot or cold. We don't know what until we open it up.
Right.
There's no in between with the man. He can't stay steady for some odd reason. He wins 2, he loses 2. He wins 2, he loses 2. He's a really good fucking gatekeeper right now. I'd like to see him do more because he had a lot of fucking potential when he first came in to the UFC. He looked like he was going to do great things, and then fell and tripped over his own dick. Stolfus, he's having a rough go to start his UFC career. But I mean, I don't think this is going to be the fight for him to turn it around on, though. Like I said, I'm not going to vote against Gerald on this, but Stolfus, good luck, man. Hopefully GM3 doesn't trip over his own fucking dick again, because that seems to be the case a lot.
Yeah, no, I will absolutely admit it can be a little tough to be a Mearshart fan for sure, but he seems to have been doing a lot better lately than he did when he first got into the UFC. And we've seen, to be fair, we've seen a lot of big name talent come in and trip over their dick on the first opportunity into the UFC. So it's not like it's something that's exclusive to him, but I agree. That's what I said. He's had a little bit of consistency issues, but as cliche and casual and meme worthy as it sounds, motivated Mearshart is a problem.
You know, I look at Mearshart kind of like I look at the Minnesota Vikings. Mind you, I'm not a Vikings fan. I am a Mearshart fan, but I look at him like the Vikings for this reason. Yeah, he can get a good string of shit going, but he can never seem to complete the chase. He can never get it done in the end. It's kind of like he's the guy at the party that'll talk to the girl all night, but he can't seal the fucking deal. Something always stumbles him up at the fucking end.
Yeah.
And I want to see him do well. I want to see him get to the fucking high-ranked individuals because he's got the grappling skills and to manage it. I mean, fuck, his last 2 wins were submissions. Downside, he can get knocked out. His chin is a little bit suspect. I mean, he got fucking put out by a fucking Kamzat in fucking 20 seconds.
Very true. Very
so,
true.
I mean, hopefully he does well. Hopefully Smart gets it to the ground where he is very strong at. But I wish him the best. But, you know, I'm hoping maybe he can seal the deal and possibly finally get a number behind his name.
I'd like to see it. I'm very curious to see how it's going to play out, though. That, though, will roll us over into the 6-fight final main card of 2021 for UFC. I will say this is one of those. It's not the best and the brightest. It's the final card of the year, but again, there's some interesting fucking matchups here. Cub Swanson versus Darren the Damage Elkins to open the fucking card. There's no way. I can't say that. There's no logical way that fight is boring. These are two gentlemen that we like to refer to as allergic to boring fights. They break out in punches. You cannot count Darren Elkins out until he's unconscious. And Cub Swanson doesn't know what quit means. He's going to come in there and fucking bring it. This has a lot of potential for some fucked upness to come to play. I think there's a good chance either somebody's getting a doctor issue or a knockout in this fight. Between the two of those and their style, there's fireworks lined up to open this fucking main card.
That definitely has dark horse fight of the night written all over it. And I say dark horse loosely because, to be honest, I really think that could be the fight of the night. There's only one other fight on the card that I think possibly could be better than that. But, you know, then again, say shit like this and then watch him come out and fucking look weird. Hopefully not, and I highly doubt it because those two really are allergic to fucking boring fights.
Absolutely. It's one of the reasons I love both of those guys so fucking much. Following up from there, excuse me, Diego Ferreira versus Mateus Gamrot. Another very interesting matchup at 55. Gamrot is trying to make a name for himself. Ferreira seemed to be just clinging on to that fucking top 15 rankings. Not really making a whole lot of progress climbing lately, but it kind of is one of those situations where it feels like they're giving Gamrot the opportunity to make something off of Ferreira's name, because Ferreira's had a rough go at things lately. And he's not really the most household friendly name or household recognizable name to begin with. Gamrot can come in and do work. This could be a real good thing for him and a real bad thing for Diego. The issue is that Diego's not necessarily one to ever really be completely counted out, because as much as he might not be top 5, might not be championship material, he's no fucking walk in the park either. Diego is good everywhere, so he's got the potential to make a fight interesting no matter where it goes. This is another one I feel like is kind of getting slept on. It might not be the most exciting fight, but I don't see this one playing out very boring either. Both of these guys have very interesting styles into their own right. Put together, could make for a very, very fun match to watch, I think. Now, from there, though, that brings us to what I consider my dark horse fight of the card here. I don't know that I've seen any press for this fight whatsoever on the Instagram, on the fucking Facebook page, on the UFC website. I don't think I have seen any fucking promotion for this fight, and that boggles my goddamn mind. Rafael Asunciao, who has moved down to bantamweight, is fighting Ricky Simone this weekend. Asunciao was one of the biggest movers and shakers at featherweight for a long fucking time and is now moving down to bantamweight. And Ricky Simone is on his way working back up to get back some of the steam that he lost in a couple of rough performances when he was early on in his career. Both of these dudes are absolute fucking barn burners and exciting to watch. And every fight they've both ever fucking been in. The fact that the two of them are clashing this weekend at bantamweight and is getting zero press just melts my fucking noodle. It really does.
Yeah, to be quite honest, I'm surprised this one has no press. Like, to be quite honest, if you don't pay attention, you wouldn't even know this fight was on the fucking card. Which is weird. I mean, you have Power of the Mullet and Rafael Santiago. Look, don't get me wrong. Santiago is definitely what I will say on his way out the door.
Yes.
But at the same time, he's holding down a fucking magical spot in fucking that division right now. And I say a magical spot because that's that spot that really gets people fucking pushed up. He's just below that 10 mark, and with fucking Ricky being on the outside looking into the ranking system there, this is a huge fucking gatekeeper match for him. And to be quite honest, I'll say that Santiago didn't look bad when he fought Cody last year, but goddamn, did Cody catch him?
Last second, man. That literal fucking last second
And
shot.
what's wild is we haven't seen him since then. And that was in June of last year. So we're 18 months. How bad did that shit fuck him up? And did it fucking possibly make his jaw really weak? Did he end up putting that big crack in there that everyone else needed to use it to move up?
That fucking spring-loaded step-in fucking crack that Cody landed clean on him could have really done a number. And I tell you what, if that chin is suspect, Ricky will find it real fucking quick, because Ricky might not be the biggest power puncher at bantamweight, but that boy's got real crisp and real clean combinations. And that 1-2 lands on a suspect jaw could make for a bad night real quick.
What I want to know is, how is Ricky's grappling gonna hold up against Rafael's fucking jiu-jitsu? Because Rafael's got some good jiu-jitsu, but Ricky's got some really good fucking wrestling. Like, I think we might see a lot of scrambles in that fight, which is going to make it really interesting.
I agree. I think there's going to be a lot of this fight play out on the ground, and I think it's going to be real back and forth. I think it's going to be fun to watch. Excuse me. That will bring us to the next fight, Amanda Lemos versus Angela Hill. A fight that I don't understand why it's on the main card. Amanda Lemos has had a couple of great performances, and taking out Angela Hill would be a great name to add to that resume. However, realistically, this is 11 versus 12 on a short notice match, and it doesn't make a bit of fucking difference for the division. There's no reason this fight had to be on the main card. You want to keep it on the card? Cool. Put it up in the prelims. They don't need 6 fights in the main card. This fight doesn't hold any value to the division. It's going to be a fairly uneventful match, in my opinion. I'm guessing Lemos by decision.
Notice how I'm not saying anything here. Don't care.
Yeah. That, however, will bring us, though, to the co-main event for this weekend's final UFC card. That fight I am quite interested in, to be honest with you. One Stephen Wonderboy Thompson taking on one Bilal, remember the name, Muhammad. I get that Bilal's being very vocal right now, and he's just trying to get his name back out there, because after that fight with Leon and the eye poke and all that bullshit, Leon somehow managed to keep his name in title conversation while Bilal has dropped all the way down to number 10 and was lucky, to get the Wonder Boy fight, because Wonder Boy's willing to fight anybody, even somebody 5 fucking spots below him, just to get a fight. I really feel like Bilal might have bitten off a lot more than he could chew at this time, just because he wants to get another fight to get back out there, not realizing that Wonder Boy is number 5 for a fucking reason. He is very, very dangerous, especially for a guy like Bilal, who does the vast majority of his work once he gets inside, and has had trouble numerous times in the past with fighters who can control the range very well. Almost like one karate fucking master, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. His style is almost completely based around that karate stance and using his length and distance to his advantage. This is probably going to be a very interesting fight, but stylistically, unless something is very wrong with Wonder Boy coming into this fight, I think he's going to put on a fucking show this weekend. I'm not saying that Bilal's going to make it 100% easy. It's not that he's a full soup can, but just in terms of the levels of this game, I feel like Wonder Boy is just enough ahead that he's going to be able to put Bilal away. I don't think Bilal sees the end of the second round.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting fucking fight. Because to be quite honest, Wonder Boy, they're not using him to his full potential. He's constantly getting looked over. He's the only one at the top of that list who has not gotten a shot at the fucking title. Everyone else gets their fucking chance. Not Wonder Boy. Here he is fighting a number 10 for what fucking reason, I don't know. To be quite honest, he deserves that shot at the fucking title. Like, he really does. Namely because, well, the UFC has put him in a shitty position. They haven't booked enough fights for him. And now we're looking at a fight where, to be quite honest, I don't think he should be fighting Bilal at all. If anything, he should be fighting at least an opponent ranked higher than him to show, yeah, you really do deserve that fucking title fight. And to be quite honest, nothing against Bilal. Bilal's not a bad fighter at all. But I just don't think they're in the same league at this moment.
No.
Granted, this is MMA, so things could go down way differently than what we think is going to happen. But I think that karate is going to keep him at bay. And God knows, Steven is fucking fast with the feet. The fucking stupid fast. Like, there's no wind-ups or tells in his kicks. It's a scary situation for any fighter. So,
absolutely,
it'll definitely be interesting to see. And to be quite honest, I hope, and this is not because I dislike Bilal. I want to make that very clear. I have no bad will towards Bilal at all. But I hope Stephen Thompson takes a big old head kick, and you watch that head sail in and out of the fucking Apex Center and land off on fucking Mars somewhere. Like, put that dude in orbit with the head kick, so that way he can finally get his title shot. Because the dude's fucking deserving of it. He really is. I mean, what else does the dude have to do to keep staying at the top there to not get a fucking title shot? I mean, let's see. When was his last loss? Was fucking Pettis 2 years ago, and that was because of a fucking lucky Superman punch.
The Superman fluke, yeah, and a guy who had never fought at 170 before. So Wonder Boy had nothing to fucking plan with.
Yeah. I mean, just saying, there's some suspect shit going on here.
I agree. But that'll bring us to the main event of the evening, the final main event of 2021 for the UFC. Derrick the Black Beast Lewis versus Chris Daukaus. You know, I would love to be able to sit here and say that Derrick Lewis is just going to come in here and steamroll Chris Daukaus. But I can't. I really, in all good faith and honesty, can't. I'm not saying that Derrick Lewis hasn't been training at all, but the last time that Derrick Lewis was this vocal about how much he had trained for a fight was before the Ngannou match. We saw how that fucking played out. I can promise you one thing, though. Chris Daukaus isn't Francis Ngannou. And Chris Daukaus is not going to be scared of Derrick Lewis's power. Chris Daukaus is going to come in there and he's going to throw. And Chris Daukaus hits real fucking hard. We've seen that time and time again. And we've also seen that Chris Daukaus, in hitting hard, can do so throughout the fight, just like Derrick Lewis can. So Derrick Lewis doesn't really have much of an edge in this fight. They really are stylistically very similar. The only real advantage that I will say that Derrick Lewis has in this match is that Chris Daukaus is not the baddest blue belt in Texas. Should it come to that, that could legitimately make the difference in this match. Will it? I don't think so, but it could be the deciding factor. Other than that, I feel like Derrick Lewis really has to almost tap back into that OG Black Beast that we saw and just come out guns blazing, pedal to the fucking floor, and try and just steamroll Chris Daukaus, because if he lets Daukaus take this into the fourth and fifth round, which he's very capable of doing, Derrick doesn't have a good gas tank. Even in his best fights, Derrick doesn't have a good gas tank, and Chris does. And Chris is younger than him, and Chris is hungry and on the come up. I know Derrick doesn't want to get Rodney Kinged on ESPN, but if he's not careful, he's not going to get a choice. I like Derrick Lewis. I really fucking do. But I think Chris Daukaus is going to come out and surprise everybody this weekend. I think Chris Daukaus has got what it takes to be a very serious contender in the heavyweight division. And I think Derrick Lewis, for all the smart comments he's making, really is overlooking Chris Daukaus. And I don't think that's a good idea. I think he's, there's obviously always a chance when it's Derrick Lewis, but I think this is Chris Daukaus' fight to lose, essentially.
It's definitely going to be an interesting one. I'm wondering how it's going to play out myself, because what I really want to know is Derrick Lewis still all in his feelings after getting fucking finished by Cyril Gane? Now, did Gane actually put the lights out? No. But it was enough to make the ref stop the fight.
Right.
Look, this will be the one and only time Derrick Lewis will ever get a free pass to beat up on a cop. So I'm sure he's going to take that and run.
Right.
And I get that. But Chris Daukaus has definitely been on the come up now. I mean, granted, every time we've seen Derrick Lewis suffer a setback, he comes back way better than the last time. And after that last setback, I want to see if he really does or not, or if it's the beginning of the diminishing returns. And I say diminishing returns lightly because that power is not going fucking anywhere.
Right.
That's staying. But I think somebody's going to get knocked out, whether he gets Rodney King or whether he fucking double taps the cop. Look, we're going to see some fireworks or flashing lights or something. It's going to be worth your watch. By all means, tune in for this main event. Somebody will more than likely be going to sleep.
Yeah.
Which side?
Yeah, I will say,
I'm not sure.
But
Oh, you're good. I said which side? I'm not sure.
I'm gonna say, I don't think that this is gonna be a walk in the park by any stretch of the imagination. But as far as last main event of the year goes, they could have done a lot fucking worse. They could have done a lot worse. Excuse me. That being said, that's going to wrap up our UFC Vegas 45 breakdown. Now, you probably noticed if you've seen this show more than one time, we don't generally do things the traditional way or the way that everybody else tends to do things. And this being the last UFC of the year, like we said before, we aren't paid by, sponsored by, endorsed by, or supported from the UFC in any stretch of the imagination. But being as how most other major organizations follow their schedule, we are as well. So this will be our final I'm No Joe podcast of the year. And in doing so, basically every show in every genre of broadcasting at the end of the year traditionally will do some type of interpretive best of the year countdown list, top 17 things you missed of the year, coolest moments, blah blah, what have you. I get it, that can be fun, but at the same time, if you're looking for a list, there's no shortage of lists out there. The best of, the best submission, the best knockout, the best whatever. There's plenty of lists. I didn't want to do a fucking best of list at the end of this year. So we took it a little bit differently, like we do around here on the I'm No Joe podcast. Instead of doing a best of list for the end of the year, this year, Golfty and I are going to end the year off by letting you folks know, to us, what that one moment, that one fight, that one round, that 1 minute, that 1 second, that one thing that kind of encapsulated the year of 2021 in combat sports. Now, of course, to make everything have context, you do generally need a good runner-up, but it's really about the one moment here. Golfty, did you find yourself a moment in 2021 that kind of encapsulated it for you?
Yeah, and I encapsulated it in the two fights for this reason. my thought was some things never change, but change is inevitable. So when some things never change, first thing that came to my mind was Max Holloway beating the ever-living brakes off of Calvin Kattar.
Yep.
Some things don't change. Max is that fucking good. Period. But change is also inevitable in the fact that here we see Glover take out fucking Jan Blachowicz. That changing of the guard. Change is fucking inevitable. I wasn't going to use last weekend's because that's fresh in everybody's mind of the changing of the guard. And I think that one's a little more temporary than the Glover one because I think Glover's good enough to hold it for a while. But my thought was kill two birds in one stone. You get a best and a runner-up. My runner-up was definitely the Glover fucking taking it from Jan because gotta love the old guys. But that seeing Max is still in prime form, even though he's not the current champ, he hasn't lost a step at all. Contrary to what everyone thinks, the dude is still there. Some things don't change. You can go. There's my fucking moments that I see as this year as a whole. Because some things haven't changed, some things have.
Yeah, I like where your head's at there. I like where your head's at there. And I agree, both very, very good and very significant moments throughout the year that did very much encapsulate a good 2021 there. I like that. I went with a kind of similar theme, but a little bit different. I went with sometimes you get exactly what you deserve, and it's a good thing. And sometimes you get exactly what you deserve, and it's a bad thing. For the runner-up, for my almost, but sometimes you get exactly what you deserve, and it's the bad thing, was Tai Tuivasa knocking out Voldemort. After all the hype, after all the shit talk, Tai Tuivasa did not fret one fucking moment. He did not let it get to him. He stayed calm, cool, and collected. He came into the ring and he shut that fucking loudmouth ass hat down with class, and I could not be fucking happier for him doing it. The other one, the other side of that coin, the getting exactly what you deserve, but it turning out to be a good thing. The moment that really kind of encapsulated all the fuckery that was 2021 for me was UFC 259. Petr Yan giving one of the most beautiful knees I've ever fucking seen to the side of Aljamain Sterling's head as he crouched like a bitch down on the canvas. And the irony is that the only person that held him in fault was the referee, and it actually got Aljamain Sterling the belt. It was one of those moments where he got exactly what he deserved, but it got him a positive benefit. He was in the wrong, stalling. Even Mighty Mouse said he deserved that knee. He was stalling. He should have been able to have been hit. But it got him the fucking belt. And that kind of bullshit backwards craziness just kind of really embodied everything that wrapped up 2021 for me, as emphasized by the craziness that was last weekend. The champ who should have been able to come in and do easy work got completely fucking upset. Craziness. Got what they deserved in both situations, but very different results. And that's kind of what 2021 was for me. There was a lot of karma, a lot of dues getting paid in full, and it didn't always work out for good, but there was a lot of storylines, I think, that got wrapped up in a nice little bow one way or another, and karma was served out. Very curious to see how 2022 is going to play out, but that's what we've got for the end of 2021. I would like to officially thank every single one of you who have come along on this journey with us. 2022 will be here in just a few weeks, and we will be back as soon as we have got fights to talk about. We are going to take a couple weeks off here and fully woos off for more than just 7 days. But fret not, we will be back in January with season 6, new features, craziness, shit talking, shenaniganery, all the fun you have come to know on the I'm No Joe podcast. So before we get on out of here, I do want to thank every one of you who have been along on this journey. They should know by this point, but one last time before we send them on their way, if by now someone has not figured out the best place to get themselves some fried cheese curds and maybe directions to find themselves a Kenosha crippler while he's on his downtime, how can the folks get a hold of you after we've gone off the air, Golf T?
Wednesday nights right here on the YouTubes, 9 o'clock Central Time, because we remembered this week, because we know that we've had actual week or two of it. 9 o'clock Central's right here on Wednesdays. And then, of course, here, 9:30s-ish. Here, I'll give you directions. Just don't bother me over the holidays, spending it with my family. Unless you really need to, because there's some bad shit going on in your life, then by all means. But I will gladly be talking kicky punchies with you again right here after the new year.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time, sir. Appreciate it as always. For those of you who have not figured it out by now, the I'm No Joe podcast is on all social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook. We do this live on YouTube Thursday nights, 9:30-ish Central Time. The all audio version of the podcast comes up a week after it airs on YouTube over on anchor.fm/I'm No Joe. You can pick it up in your podcast consumption platform of choice. If you like what we do around here, thanks to the YouTube algorithms, I no longer need you to like and subscribe because the algorithm doesn't give a shit anymore. If you don't like what we do around here, first of all, why the fuck are you still here this deep into an episode? Second of all, I don't give a fuck if you give us a thumbs down or not anymore because the YouTube algorithm doesn't care anymore. If you do like what we do around here and you want to support what we do around here, 2 things you can do. 1, patreon.com/I'm No Joe. For as little as $1 a month, it gives you a thank you on the screen. It helps us do what we do around here, and it gives you access to behind the scenes, unaired, and literally unairable footage that I just can't post on YouTube or Instagram or anything else. It's only for the supporters. 2, the most important thing you can do for that YouTube algorithm that doesn't give a flying fuck about subscriptions, likes, and subscribes, thumbs downs, thumbs up anymore. The one thing you can do to help the I'm No Joe podcast that's absolutely free and kicks us into that algorithm, watch another episode. That's it. That's what the algorithm's tracking now. Videos watched on the channel. So if you enjoy what we do around here, we got a whole backlog of videos going all the way back a couple years. We've covered every major UFC event for at least the last 3.5 years now. Go back and give yourself a little refresher. Look at the evolution of the show. Just watch another episode for some background noise. It helps us, and we appreciate you. That being said, though, that is all we have got for 2021 here on the I'm No Joe podcast. Thank you to everyone who came along with us on this journey, helped us make it what it is, and everybody who's sticking along to see what 2022 has got in store. We are going to call that all for this particular episode. So remember, boys and girls, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything. Unless you thought Santa's the only one making a list. Be good, bitch.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kicks were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening.
How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good times that made us laugh.